reconvene yet, did he?
No.
And then you're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Other motion to move
Jordan,
Jeff Jordan up. And the mom is
what's number is it?
number 5. I put it on there.
Okay.
Right there. Oh, we cross off that other motion. This one.
I got you.
And then after he does the motion for the land,
Got you. I got it.
then where was your motion? Oh, here.
Got you.
That's yours.
Yep. Just waiting for the vice president.
Hello, Matt.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Vice President, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Motion to move forward with land acquisition with, based on DEM's best practices.
Do you have a second?
Second.
You have a motion, and a second. I'm going to poll the council again. Vice President,
I approve.
Councilor Flynn,
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi,
Aye.
Councilor Santos,
Aye.
Councilor Toronto,
Aye.
Councilor Von Villas, Councilor Von Villas,
I don't see her. I don't see her. Yeah, I just got around it back. Come on, is that, no, I don't want to get on your screen. So there's.
Councilor Von Villas,
Lee. No, just include Leah's. Right next to Bob Shirley. So. Here's the signature. She had trouble-
Councilor Von Villas,
she had trouble getting- so she had trouble getting that. Mhm. See, it's tricky. I'm gonna get a big clip for this.
I think we need to move forward. Somebody call her?
I'd ask everyone to just remember to mute yourself if you're not talking. And when you get acknowledged, you can unmute yourself to speak. Okay, we're gonna move ahead with some, and I vote in the affirmative as well.
Okay, motion to seal the executive session minutes?
Second.
So motion second to seal. Vice President, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Flynn,
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi,
Aye.
Councilor Santos,
Aye.
Councilor Toronto,
Aye.
Councilor Von Villas, and I voted in the affirmative as well. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to move item number 5 at this time. Do I have a second?
Second.
Poll the council. Vice President,
Aye.
Councilor Flynn,
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi,
Aye.
Councilor Santos,
Aye.
Councilor Toronto,
Aye.
Councilor Von Villas, and I voted in the affirmative as well. Okay. I see, Jordan, that you've joined us this evening.
Hi. Thank you
Hi,
for
Jordan.
having me.
Just let me read you into this, Jordan. One moment, I have a stack of civic appropriations ahead of you I have to go through. Item number 5, it's a memorandum from the town administrator. Request to fund a bicycle repair station.
Motion to receive said memorandum.
Second,
We have a motion second to receive. Vice President, how do you vote?
Aye.
Council Flynn,
yes,
Council Lombardi,
Aye.
Council Santos,
aye.
Council Toronto,
Aye.
Council Von Villas,
Aye.
and I vote in the affirmative as well. Okay, I'm going to let our town administrator, who received the initial email as well as I did, just outline this request by Jordan Brown, and then I'm going to extend Jordan the opportunity to discuss her wishes. Town administrator?
Jordan had reached out to myself and the town council earlier last month, and she has a project that she's working on, I believe, for the Girl Scouts. And what she is doing is repairing bicycles. And she is looking for funding to build not build, but to purchase and install a bike repair stand at the Gaudet School. As an avid biker, my bike breaks often, so I'm suggesting that we fund this so that I can bring my bike over to Jordan and the Girl Scouts to have it repaired. But seriously, I think Jordan wants to make a presentation about what she's trying to accomplish, and I would strongly suggest that we fund this program, because I think with COVID, everybody's riding their bikes, some of them old bikes, and they can use some help. So with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Brown.
Yeah, Jordan, I understand this is for the Girl Scout Silver Award, which is, I guess, the highest award that a girl can get, correct?
Yep,
And also, I think it's for 2 repair stations. Am I correct? One at the Middletown Library? But I'm
Yes,
going to
sir.
let you take it from now. Welcome, Jordan. Go right ahead.
Thank you for having me tonight, and thank you, Councilwoman Santos, for your personal donation. I greatly appreciate it, and it'll do the town great service. So tonight I am here to present purchasing and installing 2 bike repair stations, one at Middletown Public Library and one at Gaudet. I've already gotten the go-ahead and the funding to install one at Gaudet, and the one at the Middletown Public Library, I believe that would be the best placement for it. It works into the repairs on Coddington Highway to incorporate a better bike lane. And I just believe that it would do the town a great service to have the tools to fix bikes, and it would keep more citizens safe while riding.
Okay. Any questions from any councils? Jordan, I applaud you. I think this is a fantastic idea. I really do. Council Toronto.
Yes, I think it's a great idea too, Jordan. So thank you very much for bringing this forward. And can you tell me a little bit about the station and how it works?
Yes, okay, so I don't have a picture that I could share, but there's a station and it has a rack on top so that you can put your bike there while you're repairing it. And inside there are several different cables that have tools such as Allen wrenches, tire levers, and a few different sizes of normal wrenches. And those are just open for access at any time. And I also plan to, there's an air pump that's included with it, and I plan to incorporate a repair guide so that people know how to use the tools.
Okay, great. And will the town kind of help maintain this unit here? Is there a plan to, I'm sure people will use it. It might need a little maintenance along the way, a little addition. How does that work a little bit?
I believe that it's mainly self-sustaining. It's just tools and some cables, really. But But if there are any repairs that need to be made, I'd greatly appreciate it if the town would keep that up.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's a service. I know people are riding a lot of bikes, kids ride the bikes to school. It'd be nice if something should happen along the way, they're able to help, fix that. So again, I appreciate the energy level you have. Sorry that you had to go through 3 hours of our last meeting, and we do appreciate you being patient with us. So thank you. And I'd also like to donate $100 as well.
Thank you very much. Oh my God, thank you.
Counselor Flynn.
Hi, Jordan. Oops,
Unmute
are the
yourself,
tools,
please.
yeah, are the tools attached to this station?
Yes, they are. There are cables that run off the
Okay.
station, and those hold the tools.
Okay, great. And the manual, is that, in a Ziploc baggie, or are they laminated sheets, or is it just an outside placard?
There'll be laminated sheets that are held on by a cable.
Oh, that sounds great. And my last question is for our town administrator or council president. What fund is this going to be coming from, this support for these bicycle repair stations?
Council President's discretionary fund.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Good luck, Jordan.
Anybody else like to make any comments? Council, please unmute yourself.
Hello, Jordan. Have you received, it's Mrs. Santos, have you received many donations?
I have. I've received quite a few donations from people in the community, and I've also received yours, and those are going towards the funding of the bike repair station at Gaudet, and they're also helping with the expenses to make the repair guides.
Terrific. That's good to hear. Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Vice President, we have a motion.
Can I talk?
Teresa?
Yes, I would like to comment if you don't mind. I just want to commend Jordan because she had a car wash fundraiser over at the old Newport Athletic Club, and it was very successful. So she's worked really hard to raise funds and do a lot on her own. And I just think that this is a great opportunity to see a young lady like this working hard, wanting to achieve the silver award, which is great, of course, on a resume and for college. So Jordan, you did a great job, and I'm very proud of you because this is a big endeavor. And I think it's going to serve our community overall, especially with everybody working and exercising and really wanting to get out there. So this is a great opportunity for you and succeeding in your silver award, but it's also a wonderful opportunity for our citizens of the town to be able to go to Gaudet, use that resource that we have, of course, and then of course go to the library for academic aspects. So thank you, Jordan. You did a great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, Mr. Vice President.
Okay, motion to authorize $1,700 for the purchase of 2 bike repair stations, one at the Middletown Library and one at Gaudet School. Funds to be appropriated of the town council's discretionary fund.
Second,
The motion has been seconded. Vice President, how do you vote?
Aye. Good
Councilor
luck,
Flynn.
Jordan.
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi.
Enthusiastically, aye.
Councilor Santos.
aye.
Councilor Toronto.
Aye.
Councilor Von Villas.
Aye.
And I as well vote. Congratulations, good luck, and congratulations on your achievement. Sincerely.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice night. Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is it me? I can't hear anybody.
Nobody's speaking right now. We're gonna go to the next regular town council agenda item. Communication of Councilors Toronto going back to school. Discuss rollout strategy with the school committee and the budget for the going back to school partially.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second,
I have a motion to receive. Council Vice President, how do you vote?
Aye.
Council Flynn?
Aye.
Council Lombardi?
Aye.
Council Santos?
Aye.
Council Toronto?
Aye.
Council Von Villas? And I vote in the affirmative as well.
We lose Bob?
Council Toronto?
Thank you, Mr. President. I put this originally on the docket in August. And so at that point, I thought we were going back, or it was documented that we were going to be going back partially. I know things have changed since then. So I kind of want to maybe just change this up a little bit and maybe ask for the school committee or whoever would like to maybe tell us a little bit about going back to school and how we're doing that today. And also, you know, one of the things that we were talking about was the budget. The budget that we approved on the council level initially for this year, or for the upcoming year, was based on going back to school full-time. And so now that we're going back partial, I know we're trying to get back full-time. I was just curious if there was budget increases that were coming into effect, budget savings, just a little bit of a better understanding of what we're looking at from a financial standpoint based on how we're going back to school today. And I do want to thank the school and the teachers and the school committee for all the efforts that they're doing. I know this is a very trying time for you folks. I know you would much rather not have this coronavirus, and I know you'd love to just get back to school full time and focus on, you know, educating our children. So I really do appreciate the hard work you're doing and the flexibility that you're showing. And
Thank you.
we're here for your support. Okay. So I'm just really looking to kind of hear where you're at, kind of open it up to see if there's anything the council can do to help you today or going forward. And just want to make sure that if there are budget constraints that may be coming upon us based on other restrictions and guidelines that we're hearing from the state, that we do something about it, or at least figure out how we can assist you. So if you could just share with us maybe 10, 15 minutes of how things are going, how we might be able to help you, and what you think the impact of the budget may be.
Okay, IT department, I have no visual. I only have. Also, now I'm getting visuals now. Yeah, it's just too much overload. Okay. All right, I don't know, I saw the Madam Superintendent, are you on?
She is on. She just needs to be unmuted.
Would you like to comment in regards to,
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. So yes,
you're unmuted, yes.
thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very
Good
much.
evening.
And we do have a slideshow. I think someone from the town is going to put that up for us. I hope that happens. But while that is happening, I
You will,
do
you're just
want
gonna have to give
express-
him a minute, he's on his way there.
That's good.
Just give him a minute,
I do want to express. Okay, I do want to express my thanks to the town council, to all the department head members, and specifically to our town administrator, Sean Brown, who has, I don't think he's missed a day calling me since this all has started, and to make sure we had whatever we needed to open school safely and successfully. We lived through the May and June and all the graduation and final events. So, and then up to all of the summer doing our reentry plan with our task force. We had over 140 members on our task force. And, we had a plan, developed a great plan, but really the plan, when it's operationalized as it was last week, that's the true test of a plan. So we did get through week 1. So this is our update. Next slide, please. We provide this update. I'm sure all of you, and I know our police chief and our town administrator always checks where we are in Middletown. And Middletown did get the green light to go forward in terms of the schools. What we were waiting for was item number 3, the testing readiness. And we had all the other items in place except for the testing readiness. And when the governor came out and mentioned that she would establish 12 rapid testing sites, one here at CCRI in Newport, that gave us the green light to go ahead. And we've actually used that at least 4 times with presumptive cases so far. Next slide. So it does take a team to get this done. We wanted to have a safe and successful week 1. And we wanted to do it at a pace with small groups and with grades. Our goals for week 1 was to really orientate our learning environment. This is school like we have never had school before. When you walk into our schools, you see arrows, you see safe zones, all of those types of things. Our nurses' room has an isolation room, so it's really a different environment. It was important to reestablish our relationships with our teachers, our students, and our families. Remember, we left on March 13th, and we didn't see a child face-to-face or a family until last week. And we wanted our students and our teachers and staff to go through procedures, rituals, and routines for safety, and also to build on our success from last year, from March to June, with our online platforms. So our mantra for opening school was to be prepared to connect or reconnect and to build on our successes. Next slide, please. Why we did a phase-in program. I know there was some concern in the community, a handful of parents that thought really when the governor said, go ahead, you have the green light for all students to go to school. What we needed to do was to really take our time. We were certainly thrilled to see our students back, and the safety of our students and staff is number 1. So we brought our students back slowly. Last week, we are this week, and the 3rd week. The 4th week, we'll show you what our school is going to look like. So I do apologize for the inconvenience. I know it was a hardship for some families, but we've always said safety was number 1, and that's where we are. Next slide. Just going to have our assistant superintendent walk you through the phase-in plans. Michelle, I know hopefully you're unmuted.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So we are in week 2 of our phase-in. So this is actually a sample of what this week looks like. We're calling this our hybrid model because students are going to be in school as well as at home. So it's a combination of both. Today was a teacher PD day. We worked with our teachers all day today. We had a speaker that talked about building our relationships and having a positive mindset for the year. We worked in small groups to plan our instruction. Tomorrow and then through Friday, we do what we call group 1 and group 2, and this is by the alphabet. So we have A through K coming in group 1, and then L through Z in group 2. And this is K through 12. So basically everyone in our district is either in school on Tuesday and Friday, or Tuesday and Thursday, or Wednesday and Friday. And on the opposite 2 days, they're home distance learning. So 2 days in school and 2 days at home. And again, this is still part of our phase-in. This is not what it will look like fully over the next few weeks. You can go to the next slide. This is what next week looks like. And I think what's really important to point out here is next Monday. Next Monday is a practice DL day for everybody. And that is really important. It's a practice distance learning day. We're all gonna make sure that we're ready if we need to go to distance learning. So we're all gonna be distance learning next Monday. And then we'll be going back into our groups. This will be the final week where we have K through 12 groups. After this week, we will be bringing in K through 5 full every day, as long as we still have our green lights and as long as everything's going well. So that's our plan for week number 4, which will be the week after the ending week of October 2nd. That K through 5 group, that critical younger group, will be coming in Monday through Friday, and they will be coming in full. 6 to 12 will remain a hybrid model.
And we needed the hybrid model because we couldn't achieve the metrics of the safe distancing and the stable pods with our grades 6 through 12. You know that they change classes and have different courses. Next slide.
So just want to take you through distance learning as well. So at this point, every student's going to be doing a little bit of distance learning, but we also have those families that have selected 100% distance learning. So these are the students that are not coming into school at all. These are the students that will not be in person. And we have about 445 students that have signed on for pure distance learning. So that's a lot like what we saw in the spring. These kids are learning completely virtually. And we've improved our practices from last year. We're building on what we've learned. We have consistent platforms. We also have to remember that kids who are quarantined or kids who have a couple symptoms, maybe from the COVID checklist, will also have to stay home and have distance learning. So we have a very complex system we're trying to establish. We have our kids in school, we have our kids on hybrid, we have our kids on DL that have chosen DL, and those that might have to use DL because they're out sick or they're home quarantining. So in that whole model, we have many different types of distance learning that we're offering. And I just want to mention 2 words to you that you'll be hearing often, and you might have heard them already, but they are synchronous and asynchronous. And so it's important that you know these, and we can go on to the next slide just so we can kind of understand what that is. But on the next slide, we have an explanation of what the synchronous and asynchronous means. So when kids are home learning, they can be learning synchronously at the same time with other students and the teacher, or they can be learning asynchronously at different times. We have platforms established so that that learning can occur in 2 different fashions. Remember, there are times when we have kids home, but we also have teachers in school with students. So we are combining the synchronous and asynchronous lessons for distance learning. And we're teaching our teachers how to balance this. And we're also teaching our students how to follow a schedule that has a combination of expectations in distance learning like that. And again, back in the spring, we did the same types of things, but we're using the language more now. We're really diving into the many different ways we can be synchronous and the many ways we can be asynchronous. So I just wanted to mention these tonight. So in case you're hearing a little bit about our distance learning, you know what those 2 phrases mean. We go to the next slide, we can just give you an update of our enrollment and what it's looking like for distance learning and our total enrollments. As you can see, we're at about 1,967 students overall. We have 445 overall in distance learning. So in person, about 1,522.
Michelle, do you talk a little bit about the designated teacher for distance learning?
Absolutely. So in the younger grades, we do have a teacher that is just designated for distance learning. For instance, K through 8 Those teachers have distance learning classes that are with distance learning students. So let's talk about quickly a grade 4 classroom. That teacher, we needed in-person teachers for grade 4, and then we needed to look at our DL numbers for grade 4 and create distance learning classes. So it was almost like we created a whole nother school for distance learning students. It was a challenge. And although our enrollment is maybe lower overall, what we had to do and how we had to balance our classrooms was very complex. And we certainly needed to make sure we had enough teachers in school and we had enough teachers doing the virtual school. So that was a big challenge. We have about 10 teachers doing full DL, and then we have some teachers doing combination distance learning, including our high school teachers who are doing a combo model. So that's kind of where we are with the distance learning. This has been one of the biggest challenges in getting us back to school. I mean, safety certainly was a huge challenge, making sure that our kids all came back safe. But then the second piece is that we're teaching and learning in all different ways this year. So we talk about scenarios. We have so many different scenarios that we've worked really hard to plan for, but our biggest message is nothing is perfect. And at this point, we're working out all the kinks and we're working really hard on making it successful for all of our students and individualized. So if a student needs to stay home for 2 weeks because somebody in their family has tested positive, or maybe they need to quarantine for a reason, we want to make sure the instruction gets to that student. If a student has a grandparent that's really has a health issue and going into school would not be a great idea for that student, we want to accommodate that student staying home all the time. So we are really working to accommodate our families and our students where they can best learn. So that has been a huge undertaking, but we feel it's at this point, we're in week 1 and we're really excited to say that our students are getting rolling in their scenarios and things are working themselves out and we are addressing every issue as it comes up.
So when you take a look at, thanks, Michelle. When you take a look at that enrollment, we have over 48 new families who requested homeschooling. So I have been in touch with every one of those families and talked about our distance learning option, but they really wanted to do the homeschooling. Now there's an impact of families who do this homeschooling, which is different from distance learning. Homeschooling, the students come off our records and we don't get state aid for those students. So this is a significant impact in terms of our enrollment, but also our funding. The other piece is we know that our military population is down because there's been a restriction of movement on many of the military bases for students. So that has impacted our enrollment decrease. And the other piece is our War College. We know that we do have a War College. The War College is going on, but many of the families are not bringing, or many of the officers are not bringing their families, at least right away. We might see them after December, or we might not see them at all. So that's a significant decrease in our enrollment. So the other piece is today I was on a national call with the National Association of Federally Impacted Schools, and we are working on a hold harmless, so to speak, for impact aid for next year, so that our accounts from last year for our military students would hold for this coming year. So whatever population we had last year for military, it would hold for this coming year because they recognize War College, they recognize the ROM, the restriction of movement in the military. What we need to do collectively as a Middletown team is, because we're so impacted by our military, is lobby with our local legislators for a hold harmless and state aid. because, you know, when you have an additional 48 students on homeschooling. So, you know, once we get settled into the school year, but not, we can't wait too long. We need to have those conversations with our legislators and have our organizations, you know, the League of City of Towns, the School Committees Association, the Superintendent's Association, really talk about the impact it has on all of the numbers. This is happening across the state. So Michelle, did you want to say anything else on that?
No, I think you've covered it.
Okay, thank you. Next slide. So I think I jumped a little bit explaining that when you looked at the enrollment, but it really is what are we doing right for our students? And it's all those models, the full distance learning model, the in-person and hybrid that Michelle talked about, and the full in-person. So, you know, in essence, when you think about it, while I want us all to be one district, and we are one district, we're really running a 2 or a 3 year educational program with what we're doing this year. And again, the impact to the enrollment, I talked about that. So next slide. These are the things we did to prepare for school. The standard maintenance of our facilities, you know, our ventilation systems were serviced, all our buildings were clean and sanitized. We did our local inspections, and the fire marshal did our inspections. But in addition to that, given the COVID environment, we had the educational operations facility walkthrough team. That's that new group that the governor has tasked to do walkthroughs. So that occurred probably the last week in August, and they gave us some suggestions. We asked our staff to declutter the classrooms so our custodians could clean it in a more efficient and effective way. Socially distanced spaces where feasible. Now, some of our elementary schools, particularly kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, they don't achieve the 6-foot distance, but we moved all that flexible furniture, we stored that, and we resurrected old desks so that we would maximize as much as we could the 6 feet distance. And they're stable pods in grades kindergarten through grade 5, and certainly wear masks. We've installed plexiglass where appropriate. Certainly when you come into our building and you meet our clerical, there's plexiglass there. There's nurses that have plexiglass around their area. And we don't have plexiglass on every table or desk. Now, that was where we were going down the road to order these little plexiglass for everybody. But then we listened to a Dr. Bromage out of UMass, you might have heard of him, and he said to try to minimize the plexiglass stations as much as possible because they really block air circulation, and air circulation and ventilation was the key. I mean, wearing masks, social distancing, washing hands, and air ventilation were the key. So I've learned more about HVAC systems than I have ever thought I needed to know. We did order window fans for some areas, particularly the high school that doesn't have an adequate air exchange, and the old wing on at Aquidneck School, the east-west wing. So we have ordered those fans. We did not retrofit them in the building because that was a fire code, but they are standing up, and we suck the air out of the classroom. We keep our doors open. So that creates that air circulation. You need 4 to 6 air exchanges in an hour. With these fans, both at Aquidneck and our high school, our HVAC vendor there, contractor, said we're achieving over 10 to 13 air exchanges. The other thing is we've ordered HEPA filters, portable HEPA filters for some areas. And when winter comes, we're going to need a HEPA filter, portable HEPA filter for every classroom and at that east-west wing on Aquidneck and every classroom at the high school because of the air ventilation. I mean, a tremendous cost for districts and cities and towns. So Mr. Brown and I are talking about, you know, other ways, but it really looks like these HEPA filters are the way to go. The other piece that's not on here is you might have heard of the MERV 13 filters that go in our air exchanges already. We have MERV 11, which are good. They're a higher quality, but the air quality specialists are saying we need to put in the MERV 13 air filters. And those are on order. Of course, everybody in the country is ordering MERV 13 and HEPA filters. So we're waiting for those to come in. Hopefully our lead date is we got the order in sooner and we should see them mid-October. Next slide. In terms of our communication, I know one of the councils asked, how are we communicating all this? Well, you know, we've been doing a lot of communication. We can always do more, but we've launched a new website. We have a new MPSRI app. We have done Zoom meetings that were conducted all through early August through September with staff, parents, and students. We've been on WADK a number of times. When you open our website, there's a reopening landing site, so you don't have to go sort through everything. We did letters to the editor from our East Bay superintendents. That little slide that you saw in the beginning with the lights, that's on our COVID metric dashboard, and that gets updated weekly when we get new information about our town on Wednesdays. And we do weekly updates to our staff and parents. Next slide. In terms of the technology to keep up with the distance learning, our website, mobile app, and mass communication. I know our IT director's on. If there's any questions for him, he could answer these questions. But we launched that on August 21st. There's been a number of visits on that site, 53.3 of our website visits. So we use the metrics there, we use the analytics, and 47.7 are on our mobile app. We bought cameras for our teachers to enhance the virtual experience that can be attached to their laptop or put on a tripod, a small tripod. We will be true one-to-one. Thank you, Town Council, for that support. And the estimated time is the 3rd week of November. I know maybe there's been different communications, but our IT director, Mr. Bozen, has been in touch with the vendor, and he feels that the estimated time would be the 3rd week of November and would roll that out immediately. We have a new help desk, and we've been picking up the devices that students need from all last week. Next. Next slide. So transportation is interesting. And I heard a number of comments around town saying, oh, those buses aren't filled. What's going on? How come those buses aren't filled? They're kids not coming to school, or we just have extra buses? Well, part of the COVID guidelines is that the maximum students on a bus with a capacity of 77 are 36 students. So we can't fill those buses up because of the COVID guidelines. But we did renew our contract with Ocean State. We have 16 new buses that have cameras in them or will have cameras in them. We did a poll with our, a survey with our parents that you had to opt into busing. So we knew how many students would be riding the bus. And actually we learned we might want to do this every year. So we really know, do we need 16 buses? Do we need 18 buses or only 14 buses? We did have to change our start time at our elementaries by about 15 minutes because we needed that time in between bus runs for the bus company to sanitize the buses. Remember, we have 3 tiers. We run our high school. That doesn't take the full fleet. We have our middle school, which takes the full fleet, and then our elementary. Next slide. So food service, we did get a USDA waiver to place, is in place. So our food service is no cost to our families at this time. We just got word kind of the day before school started. So that was a nice piece of information. We do have in-school meals. Many of our classrooms are eating in, students are eating in the classrooms. At the elementary, they're eating in the gym and cafeteria. When I walked around the schools, the high school and middle school, they're eating in the cafeteria and some classrooms, and Gaudet as well. Now remember, when we have to adhere by the social distancing, the masks are off, should be 6 feet. You eat your lunch in silence, and you put your mask back on. So it's a little sad when you go through the lunchrooms not to see that social emotional exchange and so forth. So we've talked to the principals about putting music in there or showing videos or possibly having students use the phone so that they can FaceTime their friends who might be right across the table from them, but six feet down. One great opportunity is we still run our grab and go meals for our students who are on distance learning. So, you know, every student has that opportunity to get a breakfast and a lunch meal. Next. So here are some budget updates where you really see changes and increases to the budget, the FY21 budget, and we need to have conversations about this at a later date. But these are some of the things that we needed to do to open our schools safely and to really get our families back in and have the full in-face for our K through 5 and our more vulnerable learners. So we added additional building-based substitute teachers. Now you might say, what are those? Why do you need them? Well, teachers are out, and we wanted to keep that stable pod of staff to substitute. So we weren't, you know, picking up any sub that would, you know, would pick up a job for the day. So at our elementaries, we have two building-based subs. For our middle school, which is a larger school, we have 4. And for our high school, we have 3 building-based subs. So these subs come in daily. They cover classes if needed. If they're not needed, they would co-teach and support students teaching and learning. They're certified teachers. They're stable people that come into the building and know the routines and rituals. In addition, as Michelle said, we needed to add teachers. We had a number of teachers on recall, and if life were normal, we probably wouldn't, I know that we would not have recalled those teachers, but given that we needed so many teachers for distance learning, all but 1 teacher was recalled to those positions so they could work in a distance learning environment with those students. Again, we've added staffing across the district, including custodial. We're still looking for 1 or 2 custodian, and then we'll be out looking for part-time temporary in the event we know that we have a number of people that are out for various reasons in the custodial staff. We've added the personal protective equipment, the PPE, the cleaning, disinfecting costs, and overall custodial supplies. We've increased costs to packaging, signage, equipment, and staff of food service operations. You know, think about the school supplies. You can't put those crayons or pencils in the middle of the table and everybody share. So every student needs those supplies in plastic bags with their name on it, be it kindergarten or be it 8th grade or be it 12th grade. you can't be giving that student the pencil. We needed to add equipment such as carts and safety equipment to get through this. Technology related increases, applications for COVID management and instructional needs. The cost, it really, as I said, the cost of running 2/3 educational models is a lot more than just bringing students back full in person. One might think, oh, you're saving lots of money. No, that there is additional costs. And certainly the air ventilation costs, the fans that we had to order, the MERV 13 filters, and the portable HEPA filters. We've ordered some, and we are going to, as I said, going to have to order more for our high school and our east and west wing at Aquidneck School. These are all costly items. Next slide. So in terms of COVID assistance, we found out, I guess last week, I know our finance director was talking to town's finance director, and no FEMA funds will be available for FY 20 or 21 for the school district. Thank you, our town council, for contributing to the PPE. You front loaded that in, for us, and we bought it sparingly in terms of months. We wanted to do it in months, in chunks, because who knows what's going to happen by Halloween, by Thanksgiving, by the holidays in December. So we ordered it in chunks. Again, the Chromebooks, thank you so much for those. The federal CARES funds through RIDE. I think you heard about the shell game. It was originally intended to go to what we would be spending for COVID costs. Instead, it was replaced by the loss of state aid. The federal supplemental education impact aid, again, on my call today, we're trying to get that through impact aid, coronavirus relief funds, and specifically for schools that have military. And we haven't heard of any additional funds for 21 at this time. Next slide. Okay, so how did we end the year, FY 20? And where is this is our operating budget preliminary snapshot end of year, and adjustments are always being made. While it's September 21, we're still closing out the year. And I'm just going to have Cindy walk you through these numbers. Cindy?
Yes, sure. So what we're showing you here, again, it is preliminary. We still have a lot of closeout work that we're doing, but we hope to be able to bring you in the school committee adjustments very shortly. So you can see our budgeted column here. And then what you're seeing is where we are through the year to date with our actual and the variance. So right now on the revenue side, the revenue had a loss of state aid, and our loss of state aid was roughly $263,613. So when the state decided to cut state aid, that's when the CARES money came along. And the CARES money actually doesn't fill the whole pot. So what you'll see is down below under the expenses, that 253,214 number is the amount of the CARES money that will come for the school department through our application process. The balance of about 10,000 or so is actually into private school reserves by federal law. So while there is a loss of state aid, we were fortunate that in some of our other areas of revenue, they either came in where they were projected to come in or just slightly higher, which is why you can see that we didn't have a significant variance here. On the expense side, now that the original CARES funds, the 253,214, that although considered a replacement for aid, it is still federal money. And according to RIDE and the Auditor General, it needs to be tracked as federal dollars. Not all that different from the monies that were available under the federal program a few years back. So the 253, 214 means that we'll have to put that in its own fund. And then we'll go back and find the expenses that are allowable under that specific grant and move them to that fund, essentially reducing the operating budget. Then what came along was what's called the Supplemental Education Impact Aid. That's actually the coronavirus relief funds that were under the control of the governor. She made $50 million of that available to schools through the Department of Ed. It too has an application process that we're working through. That one is a little more difficult in terms of its application, simply because while it looked like it was pretty basic at the beginning, what they're willing to pay for under that has to be sustainable. So if you can't prove that it's a sustainable ongoing expense, you can't apply for the reimbursement for it. So obviously in this stage of the virus, we're ordering PPE and things like that, that we may not have to order moving down the road further once the pandemic is over. So it's difficult to prove sustainability. And when the proof for sustainability is that you need to show in your operating budget where those monies are budgeted. You can't just say, I'm going to take it out of my operating budget. So with the two, it looks like at our year end, right now, estimated variance is that we are going to end in the positive slightly. But again, we may, if we're able to finalize the last few adjustments here, we may be able to use that 45,000 in our application toward 21 money, because you can apply for both at the same time. Otherwise, we'll be using it in against the 20 budget and carry that small fund balance forward. Again, there are no new monies slated for 21 that we know of, although we do know that at the state level and federal level, there's a lot of discussion about additional relief funds for school districts and municipalities. So we're watching that closely.
Thank you. Thanks, Cindy. I know you told us, Mr. President, just 15 minutes, but we're very close to finishing here. And thank you for letting us have this time. Next slide. This is a slide I'm sure that is shared with you. This is updated every Wednesday based on Middletown's population. Our teachers were interested in this, as was our parents. So I prepare this, again, basically I take it off Rhode Island Department of Health data every Wednesday and send that to staff. Next slide. Just to
Go right ahead again.
Just to share some good news. Middletown High School is ranked 13th in the state high schools. So we moved up in our ranking and we are proud of that. And the last slide, you know how we talk about Middletown riding the wave, and Michelle found this great quote, and this is the year we'll be full of waves. We must find our strength in the waves. The big waves in life may come from outside of us, like this COVID, but the ability to ride them comes from within inside. And, together we can ride these waves and find inner strength. So thank you. Thank you for the time. I appreciate that you let us go a little longer.
President, you're on mute.
I was just told that I got, we're having a connection problem here where our system is really overloaded, but let me just repeat that, what I just said. I received a number of complimentary calls from residents about what was going on at the schools. They're extremely pleased. In fact, I only had one negative one. It really was a negative. When I explained to the lady CDC guidelines and things that you had to go through to accomplish what you're doing today. Completely understood after, but kudos to all of you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. And we appreciate your support. As I said, the department heads have been right next to me in terms of whatever I needed, and our town administrator hasn't, a day hasn't gone by that he doesn't check in with me via call or text.
I know, he updates me usually on a daily basis. In fact, I had a conversation today with the mayor from another city in Rhode Island, and they're really scratching their head, compared to what we're doing right in Middletown. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. It's a team effort.
It is. Okay. We're going to move on to the next docket item. We're having a lot of difficulties with our communication system here. In fact, I only have about 3 people I can see right now. But we're gonna move ahead with the next docket. However, want everybody to know, if anybody's online or zoomed in regard to the Rock Lobster permit, we received late this afternoon an email from an attorney representing Rock Lobster asking for a continuance to October the 5th. So they will not be heard tonight. So once again, those of you that are online, patiently waiting for that permit to be discussed, we will not be discussing that tonight.
Mr. President, Councilor Toronto had his hand up. I don't know if you can see him.
Before. No, excuse me. I can't. I have no visual of any of you.
Dennis, did you want to say
Councilor
something?
Toronto, you want to say something? Go right ahead.
Yes, I do. Just to wrap up that presentation, I want to really thank the whole school and the school committee for all their hard work. We all can see how much work has gone into this rollout. I know you would rather be educating our children than worrying about ventilators and PPE and all that. So I really do appreciate your efforts and your energy level. I do get a little concerned in regards to the remote learning. I have heard from folks that it is working for some people and not, and I'm hoping, and it sounds like you are monitoring these children who are doing the distance learning, and if they are not succeeding or excelling, that we may have a tutoring program where we may be able to reach out to them to try to help make sure they stay on track. So that's just one of my concerns. And I did, bring up the budget issue because obviously we spent a lot of time on that. And again, the budget that we passed this year was for full-time returning to the school. I did bring it up during the budget that we would want to talk a little bit about how the budget might be affected. And it sounds like there are some changes that are going to happen, and I'm sure you'll be working with Sean Brown on it. And so thank you for your time. And we'll probably be throwing you on the docket again, maybe in a month or so, just to kind of get an update on how things are going. And please reach out to me if there's anything I can do. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your support, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay, any other counselor that wants to make any comments? I'm going to have to relocate to another office because my connection in here is horrible. Okay. I don't.
Mr. President, I think it's because of the bandwidth that we're having an issue with.
So, yeah, I agree.
And so I think if maybe we went through,
It's, I'm gonna be moving into another office. I'm gonna hardwire. I'd like to make a motion that we take a 5-minute recess. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Yeah, Nate, this isn't.
Barbara, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you tell me where the Healing Co-op is on whatever agenda you have?
Oh, hold on.
Thank you.
You're talking about the civic appropriations?
I am.
Okay.
Item number 4, they're all coming up after we discuss.
they
item
are.
number 3. Oh, yeah. Okay. As soon as I know we get all the councilors back, we can start again. I apologize for that. We had to relocate into another office and go direct. Okay, I think we have everybody. Councilor Toronto? Okay, good. Vice President, motion to reconvene.
Motion to reconvene.
Have a second.
Second.
Okay. Vice President, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Flynn?
Aye.
Councilor Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilor Santos?
Aye.
Councilor Toronto?
Aye.
Councilor Von Villis? And I will vote in the affirmative to reconvene. Okay. Item number 3. Communication of Councilor Flynn and Councilor Toronto, reference beach ordinance/dogs.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second.
Have a motion and second to receive. Poll the council. Vice President,
Aye.
Councilor Flynn,
Aye.
Councilor Lombardi,
Aye.
Councilor Santos,
Aye.
Councilor Toronto,
Aye.
Councilor Von Villis,
Aye.
and I vote in the affirmative as well. Councilor Flynn, Councilor Toronto, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Am I, okay. The joint memo requesting this agenda item submitted by myself and Councilor Toronto reads, it has come to our attention that a number of dogs are on Second Beach every evening after hours in violation of Town Ordinance 94.32A1. The This is not new news and has been brought to the council's attention many times for many years. We are interested in finding a solution to maintain the quality of life for all Middletown citizens and visitors. We would like to request council discussion of short-term on-site enforcement options of this ordinance, police department, park and rec department, volunteer, and long-term win-win strategies for all. So the council also has a package that includes some police reports that are not in the online docket due to PII, or personally identifiable information. And the recorded violations in that package of the ordinance go back to 2013. The police reports are ordered chronologically, and I hope all the council members got to the last 2 pages that describes an incident earlier this month that is truly unacceptable. The bottom line is that the word is out with, people with dogs are being told, Middletown doesn't enforce the ordinance. Come back after 6:15 like the rest of us do and walk or run your dog. Middletown has an ordinance. The ordinance is not enforced. And then 1 dog turns into 2 dogs. 2 dogs turn into 4, 4 dogs into 8. And now people are being threatened by owners of dogs. Not all of them, but we're getting to a point where something really needs to be done. This has been going on for a while. The quality of life is becoming misrepresented in Middletown if the ordinances that describe the quality of life are not being enforced. We're getting a reputation that enforcement is a joke, and that's not something to sit on lightly. So the solution is either to enforce the ordinance or change the ordinance. And the question to the council, which is why we brought this up, is, does the council want to enforce the ordinance? So I'll turn it over to Councilor Toronto and let him wrap it up, and we can see what the council feels like.
Great, thanks, Terry. Yes, I like to get out and walk, and I actually walk Second Beach quite a bit, and I've been approached by a number of residents who ask me about the dog ordinance and how it works and how is it enforced. And I've received a number of emails from some of the campground residents and people that frequent the beach after it's closed, and wanted to know who's going to enforce the ordinance. I can tell you, I've had run-in with dogs where it's not all dogs, and trust me, I love dogs. I wish they were all as well behaved as most, but there are certain dogs, and this is why we've had ordinances put in place, that people have been approached by dogs, bitten by dogs, and we've had to, because of a few, we've had to make this ordinance and put something in place. Do I like it? No, but we have to enforce what we've put in place. And so I wanted to join with Terry just to bring this forward. Again, I've received a number of emails. I've been approached by a number of residents asking us, what is the town council going to do about enforcing the ordinance? So that's why we're bringing it forward. Again, I'm a dog lover, but we do need to enforce our ordinances or change our ordinances.
Okay. Mr. Brown, any comments?
I believe we have Captain Feria on from the police department tonight. They can talk a little bit about how the department does approach the issue of dogs on the beach. So I don't know if we can pick Mike up.
I'm here. So since we started getting complaints regarding the dogs on the beach, we've taken several steps to try to have more of an appearance on the beach and enforcement. Our animal control officer has adjusted his schedule. He's worked several evenings to try to make himself available during the hours that we're getting the most complaints. He's utilized the department gator as well as unmarked vehicle in attempts to catch people walking the dogs in violation of these ordinances. Additionally, we've positioned officers or CSOs who've been working the beach at the gates after hours, turning away vehicles that are coming into the beach with dogs. Our variable message boards, the signboards you see down all around town, reflect the no dogs on the beach, no alcohol. That's, we made sure that's on every board down there. We are currently rolling out a plan and working with the town council and Sean to hopefully hire additional employees next year to help with the ordinance enforcement and parking around the beach, who would be part-time summer employees.
Love to see animals running around.
And we're hoping to work with Parks and Rec to provide additional signage on the beach itself, informing people of the ordinance violation. I will say we had 17 calls for service in which our officers actually responded to the beach for dog complaints. Every single one of those complaints was made by a single complainant who was not a Middletown resident. We've had officers on the beach. The problem does exist, but I don't believe it's as great as it appears to be. Thank you.
Any Councilor Lombardi?
Captain Faria, thank you very much. Mike, do you know, do we have any data on how many citations have been issued to people as opposed to warnings? And, you know, I don't know if you have a period of time when, if you do have any of that data.
I do. I have data going back to June 1st. We've issued one citation for a person who violated the ordinance on more than one occasion. Every other person who was encountered was more than agreeable and were willing to take the dog off the beach, and we haven't had a second encounter with any of those other people. So it's been education followed up by enforcement.
That's good strategy. Are they leash law enforcement issues, or are they just people being on the beach when they shouldn't be with dogs? Do you know?
Like I said, every complaint we've had called into our department this summer has come from a single complainant, and they have been varying from leash law to dogs being on the beach when they shouldn't.
Mr. Brown, have we talked about maybe in addition to the ACO, animal control officer, adjusting his hours, possibly getting him some help? Because I mean, I would think that the calls for service for the animal control officer are not limited to just the beach. As I remember, I mean, you know, back when Mr. Nunes was the animal control officer, I mean, he was a pretty busy guy in other places other than just at the beach. So have we ever considered maybe a part-time position to help out a little bit, even if it's seasonal?
So the thing that we're looking at right now, as Captain Faria pointed out, he and Chief Kewer are looking at more or less creating, we call it an auxiliary police force to help with those type of duties next summer. So those part-time employees would provide that service that you're in fact, you know, discussing right now. I would say that through this summer, we've employed our regular police officers on a part-time basis or on an overtime basis to provide additional patrol at the beach. And again, you know, I think I'm not sure that the situation that's being described is as terrible as it's being presented tonight. Dogs, there is an issue with dogs on the beach, but I'm not convinced from the data and the reports from the police department that it's you know, sort of an epidemic of dogs off their leash. It does occur, but I am not sure that it is necessary to have a wholesale change in the program down there.
I mean, when I look at this information and data we got today, it's quite frankly, bluntly, it's one person on a mission. That's what I see. I see a lot of complaints from one person. And let's be honest and let's be upfront here, because we all have that data in front of us, and it's the same person. And there's a stack of calls from one person. And to Captain Faria's point, And it doesn't make any difference whether the person's a Middletown resident or not. But the fact of the matter is, she's not. And this person's been in front of us numerous times about other issues. So, you know, I mean, we need to at least consider the source here. Because I walk the beach a lot too. And I don't see the problem. Thank you.
I would just add, like I said, I think the chiefs and Captain Ferry's initiative to relook how we provide beach security, I think will have a positive effect on this. Again, offering part-time help that could assist the animal control officer, but also address areas that, you know, are measurably a greater problem down at the beach during the summer, which is the use of alcohol, you know, and some of the crowding and the partying that goes on. So I think that wholesale change in how we patrol the area, you know, resource how we do it is a better approach. And I would expect to see some better results from that. But, you know, again, I think with the dialogue that started this summer about the dogs off the leash, it has been a program that, you know, starts with the beach manager, the announcements over the loudspeaker, lifeguard staff, beach staff, police officers, the animal control officer. You know, really a considerable amount of money has been spent. I think we changed the process a little bit next year, and then we'll see improvement.
Vice President?
Thank you, Bob. So I read every report, and I was particularly interested in some of the pictures that were taken that caught my eye. It looks like, you know, some were taken when the beach was open and there was actually lifeguards and employees on duty. And it looks like some are taking probably after hours. So I'm looking at one now. It's case number 19-1210-OF. And that particular picture, the beach is pretty crowded. And it looks like it's not after hours. So I just want to make sure that we're talking about extra help. And, you know, we, with good intentions, at times put ordinances into place that at the end of the day are not enforceable, or they're enforceable, but only to a certain degree. So having said that, when I look at these pictures, I just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can. And Rick, I agree, the majority of these are coming from one person, but whether they're coming from one person or not, it's still somewhat legitimate here that when you look at these pictures and you see the beach is crowded, you know the beach is open, are we addressing, and is our staff trained to address, you know, lifeguards trained to address those types of issues? Or are we just, you know, kind of letting it go on in-house, you know? So, I mean, it's always been an issue. It rears its ugly head every so often when incidents occur. And I just think we need to just kind of remain focused on it, make sure we're doing everything we can to enforce it to the best of our abilities.
Councilor Flynn, you wanted to make a comment?
Yes. You know, one of the issues is the ordinance right now states that through September 30th, dogs are only allowed on the beach in the mornings. And the beach is flooded with dogs in the evenings, on or off the leash. They're never supposed to be off the leash, yet they are, and they're there in the evening. Personally, it doesn't matter to me what the ordinance is, but it should be enforced. You know, this ordinance came about for some reason. I don't know. You know, maybe there's some history we need to know. Maybe there's a liability issue. I don't know if the solicitor can speak to that. You know, every other beach that we are surrounded by says no dogs May through September. I'm not proposing that, but that does mean that we get a flock of them probably here at the Middletown beaches. And, you know, I just think that there's a win-win solution out there that, you know, we can service our residents and yet keep the expectations of other residents and visitors when they go to the beach, that if there's not supposed to be dogs, there aren't dogs, and if they're supposed to be on the leash, that they're on the leash, and it's being enforced. That's all. But not, I have to tell you, right now, all the actions that were described, they're not working. This is, I'm not sure. It sounds like a good list, but it's, I don't know if it's because it's not consistent, the presence of enforcement or what, needs to happen. It seems to me that with what we have, and of course, there's only 10 more days, 9 more days of the ordinance to be enforced. But I think it would be interesting if we dedicated some bodies on the beach in the morning and the evening, and got the word out. I have no problem with educating, but if you've been told twice, then it's time to write a ticket and make people know that we're serious.
Okay. I'm good. Who does? Lorraine Starr, you're there. You want to speak? Lorraine Starr, you have to unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted, yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you for addressing the ordinance pertaining to dogs from May to October. I'm asking you, would you please consider a committee of perhaps following members? This has been requested in the past, 2 to 3 willing counselors, perhaps the beach manager, Mike McGorty, recreation manager, Will Cronin, a police department representative, 1 or 2 regular dog walkers or dog owners, myself and anyone else you would consider, to address the positive and the negative concerns surrounding the compliance of the town ordinance. This committee could discuss public awareness. They could discuss enforcement, the presence of the dog feces, consequences, discuss signage, discuss hours surrounding animal control or perhaps hiring part-time security, discuss safety environment for people who are allergic or afraid of dogs, consider dividing the beach into a dog ordinance area about a half mile from Surfers End to the center, and then maybe a no dog area. Consider that. Consider registering dog owners like you do passes for parking. If they fill out a form and say that they're going to comply with the regulation. A lot of people are just not aware of it as yet. And perhaps enrolling some volunteers. It's not that we don't want dogs on the beach, it's the ordinance allows it. It's the important thing that the dog owners comply. It's all about the dog owners, not about the dogs. Please act on this. I ask you, please.
Thank you, Lorraine.
You're welcome.
Any other council like to be heard on this? I can't see everyone, so, okay. Good points brought up tonight by all. I think there's, obviously, there's an awareness problem. I agree with the vice president. You take a look at these pictures, there's an awareness problem. Maybe we have to make sure this upcoming summer that our beach employees, our lifeguards and staff are fully trained and understand that we do have such an ordinance. Maybe that would relieve some of this. Other from that, hiring additional people to police this, I'd like to see a physical impact statement in regards to that, exactly what it would cost, because I don't necessarily feel that in addition to the employees that we have at the beach now, whether it be our staff or the police that we have working the beach or our lifeguards, that it could be an additional cost that we don't need. But we do have a problem and we have to address the problem.
Well said.
Mr. President, I don't know if you can see me.
I see you.
Thank you for that. And a lot's been said on this. Something I'd also like to just add to this is, I know we don't have a lot of dogs registered with the town. It's another issue that we wanted to talk about, that we should encourage Middletown residents to register their dogs with the town of Middletown. And maybe there's something there that, you know, we should have a tag, or they should have tags, and we should also be a little bit more pet friendly. One of the suggestions was maybe we have certain locations at certain times. I know I've seen it out in California, and I've seen in a number of areas where they have certain times where they have a dog park open at a beach area between certain times. And it might not just be in the morning, could be maybe in the afternoon, or it could be, you know, in the evenings. Right now, we have, the ordinance says they're not allowed on the beach in the evenings at all. So I want to not just enforce the ordinance, but let's make it more pet friendly. And so I would be more than happy to volunteer and participate on that subcommittee if that's the idea that the council wants to do.
Okay, we have Maria Knapp. Maria Knapp.
Hi, hello, that's Marla Nappi. Yes, good evening.
Okay, Marla, I apologize.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I am a dog owner and I love to go to Second Beach. But what I've seen this summer in particular are, as everybody else has commented, there are too many dogs on the beach. I've seen them more in the afternoon when I go there. Many of them are unleashed, and I worry about the dogs running wild and perhaps getting a young child. They're also, I don't know if they're doing their business on the beach. But the fact that you do have an ordinance, and to me, it does not seem like it is being kept up. The dogs are free. There are lifeguards there. This weekend, it was a beautiful day. There were no lifeguards, and there were dogs unleashed on the beach. So I don't know why this continues to happen. And I think people that do spend their summers at Second Beach in Middletown would like to see it be a more safer place without the dogs. And the dogs can go in the morning and enjoy their time as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Marla. Anyone else? Vice President.
So I was thinking that I like the idea of maybe the animal control officer. I know they adjusted their schedule a little bit. Maybe next summer we adjust it. It gets adjusted to, you know, to the beach season to help curb some of this. The other thing I was thinking about, when we all receive our tax bills, we receive information besides our tax bills. We receive about the pay-as-you-throw program, and we also receive about short-term rentals. So that made me think that, do we, when people purchase beach stickers, this year was all stickers, right? So when they purchase beach stickers, are they given, maybe we could give them, if they're not given, some of the rules of the beach or some of the ordinances about the dogs, and maybe create that type of awareness.
Good point.
Councilor Flynn.
Actually, I believe that when the stickers were purchased, and I believe was Councilor Santos's idea, they were given a blue card that had the ordinances, the pertinent ordinances, obviously not in full, but the summary on the card, which included, you know, I believe the hours of the dogs when they were allowed. So anybody who had a sticker knew.
Okay, I know I have somebody else that wants to speak. Who are they? Michael O'Connor. Mike? Michael O'Connor.
How about Anton Viveras has his hand up?
Anton Viveras, I understand you have your hand up, Anton?
Yeah, sorry. I think you read that wrong. I mean, the account says Susan, but either way, my name's Nick Logler, like resident of Middletown. And like, this is like kind of, I would just say it's incredibly disappointing and discouraging how much energy the council is expending and how beholden the council is to people who aren't residents of the town. Like, I think it's a pretty striking statistic that 17 complaints came from one person. And like, I understand that you have an ordinance and you want to enforce the ordinance, and I really applaud the Middletown Police Department for what I think sounds like a lot of discretion and care and how they've handled a manufactured issue. And so I would just encourage the counselors. Sounds like there's been a pretty reasonable response, but before we dump too much energy into this, like think about who you're representing.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, just bear with me because I'm getting these names secondhanded because they're getting passed along to me. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak? Okay,
Mr. President, I don't know if you can see.
I can see you. Go ahead, Councilor Flynn.
Thank you. I would just like to remind Mr. Logler that we do have a package of the police reports and the PII that, he is not, it's not available to him to see. And some of that information is startling as to how the attitudes on the beach have evolved. And that's one of the reasons that we're giving it some attention. So, as I think Ms. Knapp pointed out, it's accelerated. It's become exponential. It's not just a couple here or there. There's a lot of animals on the beach. And, to Councilor Toronto's point, when dogs are registered, maybe it's a benefit that with a lanyard, we offer to those who are registering their animals. And we do find a time and a place that is, especially for, those dog walkers that want to go to the beach. There's a lot of ideas, I think, that have come through over the years. And I do think maybe a committee where they hash through all the ideas and what other beaches might be doing. And even if we need to be the trailblazers in something that's creative, that will be a win-win. I think it's a good idea to get the stakeholders together and the experts, because we do need to know, for instance, from our solicitor, what are the liabilities? From our police department, what are the capabilities? Can this be handled with a subcontractor or volunteers? There's a lot of moving parts that could be coordinated to again raise the standard and attain that lifestyle in Middletown that our ordinances reflect.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I think to form a committee, personally myself, I think that's a good idea. I don't think it should be this council forming the committee. Matter of 40 some days, we have a new council being elected, and which will be in plenty of time before the upcoming 2021 season. We have, as it was brought up earlier, we have about 9 more days of this ordinance. Good talk tonight, good conversation tonight. I just want to make sure that we treat the residents that have animals as fairly as we do those that don't have animals. I certainly have my passion towards animals, and I think there's a lot of people that do. Any further conversation?
Question?
Wait a minute.
Is there? Oh,
We have somebody that has a hand up that wants to speak. I don't know who you are.
Yeah. I'm just want to respond to Councilor Flynn. I just hope should any committee be formed in the future, that it's Middletown residents on that committee, as opposed to seasonal guests.
Can I get your name and address, please?
Yeah, it's Nicholas Logler, 110 Indian Hill Road.
Thank you, Nicholas. We need that for our records. Thank you. Okay, Any other conversation?
Mr. President?
Councilor Flynn.
So I guess my question to the council with the remaining, 9 days of the month is there any interest in, and the police department would have to weigh on this, in enforcing this or being a presence, monitoring this more, reminding people more, of what the ordinance is and doing a little bit more enforcement? Do we have the capability or interest in doing that? That's a question for the council.
I think, Mr. Brown, my personal feeling, I think this is under Mr. Brown's area of responsibility. I think he will look into it. He said earlier that he'll be meeting with the police chief and Captain Farrier to discuss this. And I, for one, feel that's enough for tonight. Unless any councilor feels differently. Okay, Councilor Flynn, any counter comment?
Oh, no.
Okay, I just feel we got 9 days left.
Yeah.
We have a lame duck council. And we'll see what happens down the road. And Mr. Brown, you got the message tonight loud and clear. He's going to discuss this with our police chief and our captain of patrol, and I'm sure they'll take care of the issue. Okay. Is there anybody that I can't see? IT, if you can help me out, or clerks downstairs, if you can help me out. Is anybody that wants to speak that I cannot see? Okay, good. Okay, we're going to move on. Item number 4, memorandum of the town administrator, RE FY 21 civic appropriations.
Motion to receive said memorandum.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Poll the council. Vice President?
Aye.
Councilor Flynn?
Aye.
Councilor Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilor Santos?
Aye.
Councilor Toronto?
Aye.
Councilor Von Villas?
Aye.
And I myself votes in the affirmative to receive. The first discussion, civic appropriation, will be the general fund. The first one is, it was on our general fund appropriation to authorize an FY 21 civic appropriation to the American Red Cross Rhode Island chapter in the amount of $3,000. Now, I'm going to open it up for conversation with the councilors. That's number 1. Any conversation? Mr. Vice President, you want to make that a motion?
Yeah, motion to authorize an FY 21 civic appropriation of the American Red Cross Rhode Island chapter in the amount of $3,000.
Second.
I have a motion that's been seconded to authorize the American Red Cross chapter, Rhode Island chapter, at the amount of $3,000 for FY 21. Vice President,
Conversation?
Councilor Flynn?
Well, I'm reading the request detail. I think they requested 3,000, but we approved 2,500. Mr. Brown?
No, the way this schedule is presented is that in fiscal year 2020, which was last year, they were awarded a $2,500 civic appropriation. And for fiscal year 21, the American Red Cross is requesting $3,000, which I believe the council just, there's a motion on the floor to fund them for $3,000.
So I'm looking at the request detail that we got during the budget hearings that has that fiscal year 2021 approved, which has the third column filled in. So I'm just wondering if the amount, it was actually planned to be 2,500 and not 3,000.
We may both need a cup of coffee.
I don't have that document in front of me. I have what's been presented in the docket for the council's consideration.
Well, that would mess up your numbers, would it not? If we approved more than what was in the budget hearings?
If you approve more, then we'll have to adjust the funding source. It's accounting. So we'll make those adjustments as necessary.
You see, it's her husband who fixed that up.
So,
I'd like
Mr.
to
Pre-
remind everybody, excuse me, I'd like to remind everybody that if you're not talking, please mute because we can hear you talking.
Mr. President,
Counselor Flynn.
so are we, in the docket, are we doing the memo from the town administrator? It lists A through J. Are we doing just those organizations tonight?
We're going to do all of them tonight, Counselor Flynn.
A through J?
All of them. All
Okay.
civic appropriation requests, yes. If we get that far, Counselor Flynn.
I think that we are lacking some information without the budget hearing documents.
It was in your docket, wasn't it?
Well, the one in the docket did not have the fiscal year 2021 approved number. That whole column is blank. That's why I went to my budget hearing documents.
The council approved a bottom line budget, and Mark's on the line, of $126,426.
Yeah.
Historically, if the council's made a change in the total amounts that have tonight, when they go through line by line, Mark and I would make adjustments when we prepare the budget adjustments at mid-year. So I think the exercise that you're going through tonight is going through each one of these lines, looking at what was requested last year, what was requested this year. You've had the different requests from the different organizations is basically voting on how much money you desire to appropriate to each one of these groups. And like I said, the accounting will follow with budget adjustments at mid-year.
I'm looking at the docket item, Counselor Flynn, and the $2,500 that you're referring to, that was approved for the 2020 budget. The
Yes, but if you'll notice, Mr. President, the bottom line of the 2020 approved figure is 126,426 also. So what we approved was flat funding into 2021. So the figures that are in the fiscal year 2020 column should be the figures that we approved for 2021, if I'm reading this correctly. Mr. Brown?
Those are the
Counselor
budget.
Flynn, do you
So
mind?
that's, well, what I would say respectfully, Mr. President, is you have a budget number of 126,426, but based on your review tonight, there's nothing that precludes the council from appropriating more money or less money after the review is complete. And again, we would make those budget adjustments. The finance office would submit those to the council with the mid-year adjustments along with the adjustments from the other departments.
Okay, Counselor Flynn, in the future, if somebody's talking, nobody's interrupting you, please let them finish.
Yes, Mr. President.
Santos. Counselor Santos?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. On our docket tonight, and I can understand where Mrs. Flynn is coming from, we have A through J that we are apparently approving tonight of their request for money. And the reason why I say this is because belonging to the Middletown Historical Society, it's not on here. There are only certain organizations that we are approving tonight, if I understand this correctly. This civic appropriation letter from Mr. Brown. It only has A through J. And my understanding is these are the only ones that we are approving tonight. I could be wrong,
Counselor Santos, there was an email sent out
correct?
It was sent out from me after a conversation with Mr. Brown, that we were gonna do them all.
All right.
And we were gonna go through each one and do them all. So we treat them all equitably and fairly, that we would look at them all. There are some of these charitable requests that are not gonna be needed to be fully funded because of COVID. There are
Understood.
others that may perhaps need more. So that's why we were gonna go through all of them.
I
tonight.
must have missed it. I apologize.
Okay. Counselor Flynn.
So, Mr. Brown, just so I have the accounting correct, in the budget hearings for civic appropriations, the total that we had budgeted for was 220,676. Is that correct?
I would say that you approved $126,426 in the general fund
Yeah,
and $94,250 in the Parks and Recreation Fund.
which is a total of $220,676, the same as fiscal year 2020. I believe we flat funded because of the hit of COVID financially.
Well,
So
I don't
I'm-
think the council ever considered the dollar amount or the request that came in from the different organizations. Ultimately, the council made a decision that because of COVID and that you wanted to go through each of these line by line. So I think if that had occurred during the budget process, that number may have changed. So again, I think as the council president said when he called me, the desire was to go through each one of these lines, make a decision on each one of them. And if the council desires to appropriate more dollars than the 126,000, say in the general fund, we would process a budget transfer mid-year. If the council spends less, we would make the same adjustment, but we wouldn't need to identify a funding source for it. But I think for tonight's exercise, you're not restricted to that number. I think that's the point you're trying to make, but there is no restriction on it. We can make a budget adjustment to match the desire of the council in considering what's been submitted to you.
And may I ask Mr. Brown a question, Mr. President?
Yes, you may.
So, Mr. Brown, if we go over that bottom line number that already went through the budget process, where would that funding come from?
The worst case, it could come from fund balance. The best case, we would find it from another line item that has excess funding in it. Again, we process the first wave of budget transfers at mid-year.
Okay, I'll play, but that's not
Well,
how,
I don't think it's a game. I'm just explaining to you what's been done for the last 20 years. And, I'm not laughing about it. It's not funny. I'm just explaining the accounting. It's pretty black and white. And I think you have a number of organizations that are, a lot of them are online tonight, and they desire to go through to talk about the programs and why they're seeking these funds. In a lot of cases, they're trying to provide essential services in a COVID environment. So they may very well be seeking more money than they have in prior years, and you may desire to fund those and give them more money than they've received in prior years. So,
And there also may not be the need to fully fund some of these requests because of COVID. That's the logic behind this.
Correct.
Flynn.
all right, yes, and as my memo of August 10th, it recognizes that some of these organizations, need to do what they need to do despite COVID and need that money. So I've already recognized this. I'm not sure I was prepared to see sort of a different documentation from the budget hearings, but that's great if people can explain and we can come up with numbers together. Thank you for explaining what the process would be tonight.
Okay. Council Lombardi.
So all of these organizations, as I look down this list, I can't think of one that is not worthy of what we approved in 2020 and the fact that at the very least, when you look at the bottom line, as Councilor Flynn has noted, that we've at least level funded them and moved it, and possibly taken it forward into 2021. I can see some that have requested monies that they couldn't use this year. I can think of a couple, I don't know if we're going to get to them, that didn't use the money because of COVID, but when you get into the next year, they're gonna need those funds before the council appropriates a budget. The monies will be available to them prior to the end of the budget cycle. So to say that they may not need them because they didn't use them because of COVID, doesn't necessarily they won't need them. And I'm going to advocate for level funding these people. There are some here that have asked for increases. I'd like to hear the reason why they've asked for increases. That I think we should hear. But to go down every single one of them, all of them could make good cases for the money that they've requested in 2020. But not all of them asked for increase. A good majority of them have not asked for increases. They're just asking us to give them what they had so that they can operate. So, we're going to take a lot of time tonight, and maybe not even tonight, to go down line by line and look at some of these organizations that I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to support them. But I see what Councilor Flynn is saying. I totally see it. And with the budget challenges we've had, to advocate for increases and then have to go looking for the money someplace kind of bothers me a little bit. When we've made other departments in this town hold the line this year, and some have taken decreases.
Well, what I think we ought to do, well taken, point well taken. The reason for this is that we do not have to level fund any of these people. We do not have to. We did that for budgetary reasons. We have organizations like the first one, the American Red Cross, the Rhode Island chapter has been demanding on them financially through this COVID. So item by item, we'll go through it and we'll see how the bottom number comes out at the end of the day. But I'm not going to blanketly fund all these projects because I don't think all the civic organization requests need to be fully funded at this time because of COVID-19. That's my position only. Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that in the interest of time, that maybe we should focus on that A through J that the town administrator did bring forward. And perhaps the other organizations can send in a paragraph when we meet on the 5th to explain what they're doing, how COVID has affected them or not, and what their needs really are. I'm looking at some of these, like, the Norman Bird Sanctuary, environmental education outreach. Are they having classes? We don't know.
Councilor Flynn, that's the purpose of this exercise, to go through them one at a time. We have a motion and it's been seconded. Am I correct, Madam Clerk? Okay. To appropriate $3,000 to the American Red Cross. Is there any further conversation about the American Red Cross? Hearing none. I'm going to poll the council. Vice President, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Flynn.
Aye.
Councilor Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilor Santos.
Aye.
Councilor Toronto.
I want to thank the Red Cross and aye.
Councilor Von Villis.
Aye.
And I also approve. Okay. The next one we're going to be discussing is authorizing an FY21 civic appropriation to the Aquinic Island Planning Commission in the amount of $18,000.
Motion to authorize an FY '21 civic appropriation to Quinnic Island Planning Commission in the amount of $18,000.
Second.
Conversation. Counselor Flynn.
So I am looking at their mission statement in the application that they submitted during the budget hearings. And they say that the AIPC's mission is to work with the communities on Quinnic Island to promote a better, it's in writing, so it's hard to read, something for all residents of the island. It's rather vague, and I know that it's regional planning. I'm not saying it's not important, but I'm not sure it's time critical at this point with COVID. That's my initial, I'd love to hear from them or from someone else. Who's their liaison? Is that you, Councilor Lombardi?
Yeah, it is.
So can you speak to,
Before I do that, I believe I saw Sarah Churgan is on, and I believe maybe there is someone else from the Quinnic Island Planning Commission who can probably give you their mission statement and maybe explain some of the projects that they've done. But I will tell you that one of the projects, just one, is if you take a ride down the bottom of Island Drive and take a look at that Wivet down there, that's helping with stormwater runoff. That's just one project that they've done in Middletown. They're working on at least one other one with the Hugendorf property. So, I mean, I think Mr. President, it might not be bad to have Sarah Churgan or whoever else is on from the Planning Commission to speak to Councilor Flynn's question. They're the experts.
Sarah, are you online?
Hello to the Middletown Town Council. Good evening, Mr. Lombardi. Thank you for giving us, queuing us up. This is Allison McNally. I'm the program manager at AIPC. And to Councilor Flynn's questions, yes, we have a very broad mission, but one of the original tenets of our mission was to ensure water quality on the island when the organization was founded in 1985. And in the interest of achieving that goal, we secured funding from the EPA in 2016 for our Island Waters program. And to Mr. Lombardi's point, where we are this year and into next, that was originally a 3-year program for funding, but we've secured additional funds and have extended the program to 2 years. We actively engaged in construction of best management practices to improve water quality in all 3 municipalities on the island. And currently in Middletown, we're in the process of final completion of a wet vegetated treatment system on Island Drive in Middletown, Island Farm Housing Development. And that structure is a retrofit and upgrade of a 1960s detention pond, and which offered little to no filtration of stormwater that ran directly into wetlands below the Island Farm development and impact the Sisson Pond sub-watershed, which is part of our drinking water supply. That project this year will cost approximately, given the technical support and design that's gone on over the last couple of years, and the actual construction costs this year was a total of $320,000. For the work that's going on the Hugendorf Farm property, that's an agricultural property, and the Island Waters program partners, which includes the town of Middletown, Newport, Middletown, the Quinnic Land Trust, Clean Ocean Access, the Eastern Rhode Island Conservation District. We are working to coordinate with the Natural Resources Conservation Organization through the Eastern Rhode Island Conservation District. We've secured additional funding to complete that work and improve and filter and clean the water that is currently running off the Hugendorf property unfiltered. We have constructed approximately 60 best management practices across the Hugendorf property. That the cost of that project is approximately $500,000. So I would say over the last 3 years, we've expended that, and probably just for construction alone this year, we're going to come up to $500,000. So I would say that the return on investment for $18,000 a year is quite significant. I understand in these COVID times that money is tight, but we are a nonprofit. We're only asking for level funding. We absolutely depend on these dollars for our general operating expenditures, and we respectfully requested level funding again this year. I'll stop there and give you an opportunity to ask any questions.
Any councilor want to ask any questions? I have a couple questions. Has your funding been leveled from our neighbors to the north and to the south? Are
Yes, we have.
they funding you this year?
Yes, they are.
May I ask what they're funding you?
Level funded the same amount of money, $18,000.
Okay, both Newport and Portsmouth?
Correct.
Okay.
It's not enough to cover all of our operating expenditures, but it's greatly appreciated money, and it keeps us with a roof over our heads and covering some of our expenditures so that we can do this work. Because despite COVID, stormwater management and water quality is a critical issue with climate change that we're facing.
I think we all concur with that. Would it be a fair statement for me to say that most of your construction costs are funded through grants?
Yes, they are.
What part of them is funded?
And salary. Excuse me?
How much is funded through grants generally? 100%?
Probably, I would say about 85%.
About 85%?
Mhm.
And of the funding that we give you, so a portion of that would go to helping with the grant, but how much does that go to just personnel?
Municipal funding?
Yes.
Probably just about 100%. The rest goes to our rent for our office space in Middletown. I would say the challenge with the grant funding is that is restricted funding. So if I'm not working on the grant, we're not charging. If personnel are not working to the grant, we're not charging to the grant. And we have to cobble together multiple grants to cover our programmatic work and to cover our overhead for staff.
So it's an in-kind service that you're doing by working on them?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
It's an in-kind service type of match that you're doing working on them?
Yes, for the Island Waters program, for instance, I know each municipality has offered us in-kind service, and as part of the civic appropriations that we receive from each municipality, we also provide in-kind service to the best of our ability to the municipalities as needed.
Okay.
On a variety of issues. I've recently been involved in complete streets ordinance meetings for Portsmouth. I've been talking to some counselors in Newport related to broadband and fiber optic service on the island. It can run the gamut. And as you know, President Sylvia, we are also currently at this point in time undergoing a strategic review with the 3 municipalities to reset and reestablish our municipal priorities for the coming years.
And we don't have any feedback from that as of yet, because you're still working on it, the agenda, right?
That is correct. That is correct. Yes.
Any other councilor want to make any comments? Councilor Lombardi?
Not to mention the effort and time they're putting in on the Burma Road west side issue also. So there's a lot of things out there that don't necessarily make the news, make it to our desks. But that whole Burma Road piece is just another another piece. But, and the other thing we have to realize too is when you look at the traffic study that was initiated by the Quinnipiac Island Planning Commission way back many years ago, their vision is some of the traffic upgrades that we see today, the Green End intersection at the Quidnick and the Green End intersection at Valley, and many of those upgrades were all visions that the realignment of East Main and West Main Road, all were visions that the Quinnipiac Island Planning Commission was in that traffic study that if you ever have a chance to look at it, you'll see that they absolutely saw something coming down the road, and it gave us literally a roadmap to some improvements that we see and probably will see down the road. Thank you.
Any other council want to weigh in? Okay. Mr. Vice President, you have a motion to put on the floor, it's been seconded. I want to poll the council. Allocate the funding appropriation requested to the Quinnipiac Island Planning Commission in the amount of $18,000. My last question, I think, would be, Quinnipiac Island Planning Commission would be, is all of these projects, you're working in conjunction with other cities, towns, and agencies, correct?
Yeah, yes, they are.
Okay. All right. Vice President, how do you vote?
I approve.
Council Flynn?
Yes.
Council Lombardi?
Enthusiastically approve.
Council Santos?
Approve.
Council Toronto?
You did say affordable housing, approve.
Council Von Villas?
Aye.
And I also vote in the affirmative. Okay. The next one, to authorize FY21 civic appropriation to Child and Family Services of Newport in the amount of $7,500.
Okay, motion to authorize an FY21 civic appropriations of the Child and Family Services of Newport County Incorporated in the amount of $7,500.
Second.
The second. Conversation. Council Flynn.
So that is, just so you know, because I don't think it's reflected on here. Yes, so that would be 2,500 more than what went through the budget hearing.
Yes.
Okay. So we funded them 5,000 last budget cycle. And I'm not opposed to increasing that amount. I'm opposed to going over budget, but I think that in COVID times, Child and Family Services are probably going to be demanded upon more, if that's the type of conversation we're having. It's just an opinion. I don't have any documentation from them. I wasn't prepared for this.
You have somebody online that wishes to speak on behalf of Child and Family Services?
Yes, I do. My name is Betsy Aiken and I work with Child and Family. And on behalf of all of our clients, our 6,000 clients that we serve, for the last 154 years, Child and Family has been at the forefront of helping clients, for example, from 6 weeks old up to 104 is our oldest client currently. We were under a lot of pressure and crisis. We have an increase in our services and our demand in our services. We were successful in opening, for example, in Middletown, our early learning center, Sandpipers. We currently have 60 young people children in that program. And we've had an enormous amount of pressure on our services, from behavioral health to tending to our independent living program, which we house in Middletown as well. And the services, both on the pressure, both on the staff, returning to work and working in some pretty intense circumstances to help our clients, get the services that they need.
Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there anyone else that's online would like to weigh in on this appropriation? We have a motion, and it's been seconded. Appropriate Child and Family Services funding in the amount of $7,500. Poll the council. Vice President.
I approve.
Council Flynn.
Yes.
Council Lombardi.
Aye.
Council Santos.
Yes.
Council Toronto.
Yes.
Council Von Villas.
Aye.
And I also approve. Okay, next. To authorize an FY '21 civic appropriation for clean water access in the amount of $2,500.
Okay, motion to approve an FY '21 civic appropriation to Clean Ocean Access in the amount of $2,500.
Second.
Conversation. Do we have anybody online from Clean Ocean Access?
Yeah, hi, Council President. This is Dave McLaughlin from Clean Ocean Access.
Good evening, Dave. Go right ahead.
Hey, Dave.
All right, appreciate the council taking the time to consider this request. Certainly, our year-round efforts for the environmental work continue. This component of the civic support predominantly focuses on our year-round efforts for litter, marine debris, shoreline cleanups, and protecting and preserving public access. And so these efforts have continued, and we look forward to moving this forward in the weeks and months and years to come. The other portion of the funding is allocated below, but I just wanted to call out that those were the portions of the program description that are really where we're focused on the funding from this area. And, appreciate the council considering this, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Dave, we've always had a great working relationship with you, and you do an outstanding job. Would it be a showstopper if we didn't appropriate the increase? We just appropriated $2,000, the same as we appropriated last year?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay. So you'd accept the $2,000?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Any council, any further communication? Council Toronto.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I want to also thank Dave. I've worked with Dave over the last several years in regards to litter control. Dave has really helped support the Woods the Owl campaign that we've been putting across Middletown, but also he's taken it to the state level. As we all know, 70% of our drinking water is surface water, and we need to control our litter. And so I was going to be more than happy to approve the 2,500. I think 2,500 would be appropriate. Again, this is a very solid organization. But thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
I certainly don't disagree with you, Councilor Toronto. They are solid, but we're trying to improve this, help people and balance the books and kind of give the most need an extra. The Vice President has a motion out there for to appropriate $2,500. I'd like to amend that to appropriate $2,000 instead of $2,500. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have any further conversation? Hearing none. So we have a motion on the floor to appropriate $2,000 to Clean Ocean Access. It's been seconded. All in favor? I'm going to poll the council one at a time. Vice President.
I approve.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilor Santos. Unmute, please.
Aye.
Councilor Toronto.
Aye.
Councilor Von Villas.
Aye.
And I also will approve. And Dave, thank you for understanding these times and how we're trying to filter money to the most needy during these COVID times. Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Dave.
welcome.
Okay, the next one. To authorize an FY '21 civic appropriation to the Dr. Martin Luther King Community Center in the amount of $5,000.
Motion to authorize an FY21 civic appropriation to Dr. Martin Luther King Community Center in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
And we have a second. Okay, conversation. No conversation? Do we have anybody here from the Dr. Martin Luther King Community Center? We have anybody online? Councilor Flynn? You have to unmute yourself, Councilor.
Thank you. My apologies. I would just say that the Martin Luther King Center was a pivotal name throughout COVID in providing for the community. So I'm pretty sure that they could use the entire request and probably need more. Thank you.
Okay, any further conversation? Yeah, I totally concur. They're an agency that certainly got called upon. They certainly stepped up to the plate, and they certainly helped a lot of needy people during the initial COVID-19 impact. Okay, so we have a motion that's been seconded to appropriate $5,000 to the Dr. Martin Luther King Community Center. I'm going to poll the council. Vice President.
Aye.
Council Flynn.
Yes.
Council Lombardi.
Aye.
Council Santos.
Aye.
Council Toronto.
Aye.
Council Von Villas.
Aye.
And I also vote in the affirmative. Okay. Okay, next one. To authorize an FY21 civic appropriation to East Bay Community Action Program in the amount of $4,500. Vice President?
Okay, yes, sir. Motion to authorize an FY21 civic appropriation to the East Bay Community Action Program in the amount of $4,500.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Conversation? Councilor Toronto.
Is there anyone from East Bay on the call today?
Next question.
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Rita.
I'm Rita Capitasto. I'm the Vice President of Family Development at EPCAP. I oversee most of the agency's social service programs. I also have two of my colleagues with me, including the director of our out of school time program, for which we're also seeking some funding. I don't know if that would be voted on separately or not. We appreciate very much the support that the town has given us through the years. For our general operating expenses, we're asking for $4,500, which is the same amount that you've been giving us since at least 2006. Although the need has increased dramatically as a result of COVID, we're not asking for more for that program. We are asking a little bit more for our out of school time programming. You probably all know that the East EPCAP is the largest community action program in the state. We serve about 30,000 people a year. We have a large catchment area, and there's a tremendous need in the East Bay. We've maintained all of our services through a combination of continued face-to-face services with clients or remote work, and everything that the superintendent presented in terms of challenges and additional needs that the school has. We have similar needs, PPE, supplies to ensure health and safety of our staff and our clients, technology to ensure remote services, and some additional funding. But we've not only maintained during the pandemic, we've actually increased some services and started some new programs. For example, we are providing COVID testing in Newport and East Providence. In Newport, we're doing it on the CCRI campus and are soon to be starting rapid COVID testing there as well. And in Newport, if clients are open to it, we can conduct a brief social service screening to see if folks could use some food or other services. So folks come in for testing, they get a bag of groceries, food gift card, and we link them to other social services as well. We also have increased dramatically the number of lunches that we're providing to seniors and people with disabilities in Middletown and the other 9 lunch sites that we oversee. Last year, we provided 4,673 lunches. We've done that same amount now as of September.
So we still have 3 more months, and we expect the need to be just as much. It's about 615 bag lunches in Middletown every month during the pandemic. Our food pantries have increased access. We've doubled the access to clients. And we just opened a new pre-K classroom in Middletown, 18 slots with only three vacancies. So despite the challenges, we continue to grow to meet the need. We appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Rita. Council Lombardo.
Hi, Rita. Thank you so much for all the great work you do. So the after-school program that you're talking about, wasn't that an offshoot of the Gaudet After Hours program?
Yes, and I'll let Christine, who's the program director, respond. What I will say is during this time where so many students have been disconnected and out of school, the need for this program has never been greater. And Christine, would you like to respond to the questions about your program?
I would be happy to. Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight to present our proposal. And
Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
I'm sorry. Yes, my name is Christina Ruth, and I live at 154 Edmund Drive in North Kingstown. And I'm the director of the Newport Family and Child Opportunity Zone and the Middletown Child Opportunity Zone, which are both programs of East Bay Community Action Program. And so for the Middletown Child Opportunity Zone program, we work in collaboration with the Middletown Public Schools, providing wraparound supports and services, including an array of out-of-school time programs. And so, yes, the out-of-school time programs are partially an offshoot of the Gaudet After Hours program. That was a program that was in place before we got involved with coordinating the COSI program in Middletown, initially through a partnership with the school department, and now as a program of East Bay Community Action Program. And we did continue that program for a bit. We had some challenges back in, when we were transitioning over to have the program on site at the Oxbow properties where it was originally held as that program. Since in the past year or so, we've been working very closely with the Middletown Public Schools to sort of redesign the out of school time programs in Middletown and what we're calling now the Beyond the Bell program. And we meet regularly with administration at Middletown Public Schools to develop and to increase the programs that we're offering, and the various levels are tiers of services, including academic intervention programs for students that are struggling learners, as well as the enrichment programs that provide extended learning opportunities for kids. Now more than ever, as Rita mentioned, these are essential services. Children had their education really delayed for 7 months. And so for many students, these programs are an opportunity for them to establish friendships, continue routines, have a safe place to be after school, and to access services that they might not otherwise be able to access. It provides a safe place for families to have their children after school in a comfortable setting on site at their schools. We're looking at things differently now, and we learned a lot during this period on how to deliver programs virtually, which is something we never thought we would be able to do or want to do. This summer, we actually were able to provide a very successful on-site camp, a live in-person camp at the Aquidneck School, and we served 28 students over a 4-week period, following very carefully the COVID regulations to ensure safety, and not one single child ended up becoming ill. In addition, we had about 18 students that participated in virtual programs over the summer, book clubs and other literacy kinds of activities from the comfort of their home, but had an opportunity to interact with students, other classmates, and teachers. So we continue to work with the Middletown Public Schools to develop these programs. And what we're working on right now, and why the increased ask this year, was because we're really trying to build capacity, and we're trying to provide some expansion with a strong focus on trying to reach those students that have barriers to access, and figuring out ways that we can make sure that they're staying connected. And in this next cycle, knowing that we have students that are working from home, doing distance learning, making sure that those students, despite the fact that they've chosen to be at home for their various reasons, that those children still have an opportunity to be connected and to maintain that connection so that they don't get sort of lost, and they're able to maintain connections with peers and others. So our request is supporting the opportunity to provide after-school programs, working with community vendors, to provide scholarships to kids who have difficulty with accessing those services, and to provide staff support to help with the coordination of the program for our kids, and supplies.
So, Mr. President, Christine, so a little historical background for a couple of my fellow councilors who were not on the council in my first term. The Gaudet After Hours program was, as you said, originally housed over in Oxbow. And for lack of a better way to put it, they kicked us out. Okay. And we needed to find a way to serve those youngsters, many of whom lived in Oxbow and didn't need transportation, but they were also feeding them. They were providing them with a place to get support after school. And when Oxbow evicted the program, we were challenged with a couple of things. One was transportation, right, which the school department was unwilling to fund and couldn't fund. The other piece of it was to find them a roof over their heads.
Right.
Through some efforts, which quite frankly, I'm not one to normally pat myself on the back, but I put some pressure on the school department and the superintendent and said, look, we need to find a way to take care of these underserved kids. And we need to find a way to get them from point A to point B. And so with the help of President Sylvia, and I know Vice President Roderick supported it, and Mrs. Santos, we found $7,500 to take care of transportation for those kids. That money went to EBCAP, and you all made it a point to make sure that it happened. And you know, the school department miraculously found space at Gaudet.
A nice space.
Kids, they did. They found a beautiful space, and they remodeled it and rehabbed it, and our facilities did a wonderful job there. And quite frankly, you know, I still support it. And I just want, you know, some historical background here as to what happened and why it happened. But I know some of my fellow councilors probably remember it very clearly. But, you know, it took a little bit of pressure and a little bit of doing on the other end. But I want to thank you guys, and I'm glad you're keeping these programs going. And I will absolutely support anything that you do for our youngsters, particularly in this COVID time when they need all the help they can get with, you know, the schools being so challenged. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Councilor Flynn.
Pardon me. Thank you, Mr. President. Rita, could I just ask you to something that you said, that the Middletown has funded EBCAP for that top line item, $4,500, since when? What year did that start, and has that stayed the same since?
The record that I have that was given to me states 2006. If it goes beyond that, I don't know, but at least since 2006, it's been at the same amount for general operating funds, right?
I have to say that if anyone thinks it's appropriate to increase that amount with what they are doing from what Rita has described, I think that they are really being impacted by COVID. And if this is the time to talk about that, I would put that to the other councilors.
Councilor Toronto.
Yes, that's why I asked if there was anyone on the call from East Bay, because this is one of the things I've had slated to talk about this evening.
We have great need.
Yeah.
Just we were asking for a little bit more for Christine's program.
Rita,
but
please don't talk until Councilor Toronto's done. Go
Okay.
ahead.
It's hard to tell on Zoom.
That's okay. It's not easy. I just wanted to, you know, I was going through your paperwork that's in my docket and all the things that you folks are working on. And this, you touch upon a lot of topics that we focus on as a council these days in regards to our seniors in our schools. And I'm not going to take a lot of time here, but I did explore the Lieutenant Governor's program that he put in place up in Cumberland. I did have him come speak to the council. And soon after that, I think they saw there was a need for after-school programs because actually in Cumberland that the town funded a department like yours to assist the community. And I think it started off about $68,000 that they put towards the program. And then I think it's now in excess of hundreds of thousands of dollars for this program, and it's been in place for 10 years. I don't know if you've had a chance to look into those programs that they're running over there, but I found it very, very interesting. And this Beyond the Bell has been a very big success, and I'm glad that you're participating in this. I would second that we should find more funds for your organization to continue to collaborate with our schools and with our community. And I do want to ask what you folks may be doing in English language learning. That is an area that a lot of, we've been told we're under-resourced on. And I don't think it's just on the school level. I think it's throughout our community. And is that something you folks are focused on?
Yes, EBCAP has an adult education program, also a youth center. And so the combination of both programs serve young people starting from age 14 up to whatever age, to their 60s, 70s. And in Newport, we have continuously run English learning language classes. And we also did an interesting class somewhere on the island in Newport, I believe this summer, for employers who have staff who are not English speaking. And so we did some coaching and some teaching of employers so that they could better their relationships with their employees. So we do, yes, we have adult education classes. It's very important. It's funded through the Department of Education, but because of the state budget, we're not even sure what our budget will be this year. And it's about to be significantly cut, we're quite sure.
Okay, great. Just, are you sharing that across the island? I mean, with the schools? I know we do the after school, Beyond the Bell. And I've encouraged our school committee or our schools to actually branch out to the other communities as a centralized kind of bringing that resource across the island. Do you guys, is that where you guys focus, or is it specifically just in Middletown?
Could I answer that, Rita? So we have been providing out of school time services in the Newport community. That's where our program started, was in the Newport community. And we've been providing out of school time services for over 23, 24 years. We are one of the state's 21st century community learning center providers. And we were actually one of the first in the state of Rhode Island back when it was funded directly through the federal government to become a 21st century site. And it is now administered by the state. The funding comes into the state and then gets put out through a competition that way. So much of the work, I should say, that when we established this partnership with Middletown, we took a lot of the lessons learned, a lot of the best practice work from our Newport site over to our Middletown site. And where we are right now with our Middletown site is that our budget is significantly less. And so that's one of the reasons for our request for the increase, is that we're really trying to build capacity and grow the programs. One of our biggest goals is really trying to reach those students that are the ones that fall through the cracks, the ones that have the biggest barriers to service. And as Counselor Lombardi said, those students who were living off site that maybe need to take the bus home, because if they don't take the bus home, they can't get home after the program. So trying to reach those students. And as far as the English language learners in the Newport site, we run a summer learning academy every summer. And the last 2 summers, our highest percentage of participating students were English language learners. So again, taking those best practices in the field and knowing how to serve those children, and taking those lessons learned and bringing them over to Middletown, building capacity so that we can continue to increase the services, and increase, availability and access for students and families.
Yeah, that's great. I really appreciate your efforts. I'm encouraged. I'm fully behind your organization. I'm learning more about it. The students are very, very important. We cannot let them fall behind. And if they can't follow the classroom curriculums, then, they fall behind. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, Vice President, did you want to make some comments?
I did. Rita, thank you, and thank you, Christine. So Rita, could you just reiterate the number of meals that you said you've served so far, or lunches for children that need it?
Yep, actually, this is for seniors.
Seniors,
So
okay.
Christine
seniors.
has some data about students, but last year we served 4,673 lunches to seniors and disabled folks. This year so far, we've served 4,103 just through September. I'm sorry, I didn't add September's numbers. So we served the same amount last year as we've served now through September. So with 3 months left in the year and averaging 615 lunches a month, we're probably serving another 1,800 between now and the end of the year. The need is skyrocketed.
Now, that's for the whole East Bay, or is that just for Middletown?
Just Middletown,
That's just Middletown.
just Middletown. So what
Yeah,
happened is it's a congregate nutrition program where people come and would sit at the senior center and have lunch together. Because of COVID, we worked with our caterer instead to provide bagged lunches. So the lunches get delivered to the senior center, and then folks come and pick up their lunches. So we had to shift. We continue to shift the menu to make it interesting. And some of the seniors are taking care of each other. So if a senior can't get there, they'll pick up lunches and deliver to other people.
So does all that money for the lunches, where is that coming from? Is that coming from you, or is that coming from the state?
A little bit less than half of the cost of the price comes from the Office of Healthy Aging, so the state. Historically, the program is structured in a way that the state pays for about half, and then suggested donations on the part of the customers pay for the rest of it. The donations have decreased significantly. And as you can imagine, we still ask, but we're not coercing people, pushing them, forcing them in any way. This is tough times. I know that the town, I believe, has also supported us during this time.
Yeah.
And also provided some money to help so that we can continue to provide the lunches.
Yeah, so I mean, before Terry brought that up, I was thinking the same thing about maybe amending the motion to increase that to about $6,000 was what I was thinking, because of the food that needs to be provided to our seniors. I think that's critical. I don't know where we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know where COVID's going, but I think it's important that we continue to support our seniors, especially when it comes to food. Because a lot of these people are making choices between food, medicine, or whatever else. And if we can make sure that the food's there for the ones that need it, I think that's critical.
Thank you. I agree. We definitely are getting those messages from folks.
A lot of conversation. I think we're all in agreement. We'll amend that motion to allocate appropriate $6,000 instead of $4,500.
Second.
Okay, we have motion second. Okay, I'm going to poll the council. Any further conversation? Okay, I'm going to poll the council. Vice President.
Aye.
Council Flynn.
Yes.
Council Lombardi.
Aye.
Council Santos.
Yes.
Council Toronto. Unmute, Council.
Aye.
Thank you. Council Von Villas.
Aye.
And I also vote in the affirmative. I'm going to make a motion. I want to stop right now. I want to make a motion that we move to licenses. Because I'm looking at the clock. It's almost 10 minutes to 10. Council meeting is going to end in about 40 minutes. So I want to get to the licenses. Rita.
I'm so sorry, just very quickly, just a point of clarification. We also asked for $10,000 worth of funding for Christine's program, and that hadn't been referenced.
And it's not going to be referenced right now.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
All right. Okay. Motion to move to licenses. Item number 26. Do I have a second?
Second,
Over council, Vice President,
Aye.
Council Flynn, Council Lombardi,
Aye.
Council Santos,
aye.
Council Toronto,
Aye.
Council Von Villas. I also vote in the affirmative. Okay, item number 26 under licenses.
You talking about Board of License Commission, Bob?
One moment, please. You did get what?
Motion to act as a Board of License Commission.
Okay. Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay. We have a second?
Second,
Okay, poll the council. Vice President,
Aye.
Flynn. Council Flynn,
Aye, yes.
Lombardi, Council Lombardi,
Aye.
Council Santos,
aye.
Council Toronto,
Aye.
Council Von Villas, and I also vote in the affirmative.
Mr. President?
Yeah,
Council Lombardi,
So the Vice President said Board of License Commission. I thought that's where we were going. You're going to licenses. I thought, I think,
we're gonna do them both. We're gonna do it. We're gonna wrap up 3 items real quick, and then we'll go back and do the other ones. We're at item number 26 right now, because we got people that are waiting to hear some of this stuff.
Mr. President?
But what do we have?
He did Board of License Commission, so we're at item number 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Item number 11. Love this Zoom, I'll tell you.
President?
Council Flynn.
So item 11, 26, 27, and 28, did you not announce that their attorney had asked for a
I
continuance?
did
to
that
October?
earlier, before you
Okay.
got on.
Okay.
Item number 11, continued from August 17, 2020, regular meeting application of Rock Lobster, 69 LLC, DBA Rock Lobster, 59 Aquidneck Avenue for a Class BV liquor license to be used at the same premise. This is new.
Motion to continue this item to the October 5th, 2020 regular meeting of the council at the request of the applicant's attorney.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, I'm gonna poll the council.
Aye.
yes.
Council Flynn, Council Lombardi,
yes.
Council Santos,
Yes,
Council Toronto,
Aye.
Council Von Bill, and I also vote in the affirmative. Application of Breakwaters Cigar and Whiskey Lounge LLC, 769 Aquidneck Avenue for Class C liquor license to be used at the same premise. Application includes request to expand hours to close at 1 a.m. Friday, Saturdays, and night, Saturdays and night before legal holiday per RIGL 3-7-8E, requires advertising for public hearing and a butters notification. This is new.
Motion to receive said application, notify abutters, and advertise for public hearing to be held on October 5th, 2020.
second,
Okay, motion second. Any conversation? Hearing none. Poll the council.
Aye. Aye.
Yes.
aye.
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 And I also vote in the affirmative. Item number 13. Application received from the following named persons, firms or corporations for renewal of alcohol beverage license for the 2020-2021 licensing year, requires advertising for public hearing. See attached list.
Motion to receive said applications and advertise for public hearing to be held on October 19th, 2020.
Second,
The motion's been seconded. Any conversation?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Council Von Villas?
I said aye.
I didn't hear you, and I also vote in the affirmative.
Motion to reconvene as a council.
Second,
Motion and second to reconvene as a council. Council Vice President.
Aye.
Council Flynn.
Yes.
Council Lombardi.
Aye.
Council Santos.
aye.
Council Toronto.
Aye.
Aye.
Willis. And I also vote in the affirmative. Okay.
Under consent, I need item number 6 and item number 23. They both need to be.
Okay. The consent calendar. Does anybody want to pull anything off the consent calendar? Okay.
Motion to adopt the consent calendar.
Second,
The motion is second to adopt the consent calendar. Any further conversation? Hearing none.
Aye.
Vice President.
Yes.
Council Flynn. See if you get this in sequence now. You got everybody in sequence now. There you go. Council Toronto. Okay.
Aye.
Council Von Villas, and I also vote in the affirmative.
I'm
Council
also an aye, by the way. You missed me.
and I too,
Council Lombardi.
and I too.
I'm on board.
Alrighty. Okay, so the consent calendar.
Now we can go to the licenses.
Okay, now we're gonna go to licenses, item number 26. Continued from August 17, 2020, regular meeting, application of Rock Lobster, 69 LLC, DBA Rock Lobster, 59 Aquinic Avenue, for victualling house license for the 2019-2020 licensing year. This is new. We're gonna-
Motion to continue these, items 26, 27, 28, the October 5th, 2020 regular meeting of the council at the request of the applicant's attorney.
Second,
Any further conversation? Hearing none. Vice President.
Aye.
Council Lombardi.
Aye.
Council Santos. Council
Aye.
Toronto. Council Von Villas, and I also vote in the affirmative. Okay, item number 29.
Yes.
Application for special event permit for the Middletown Preventive Coalition for the Social Dilemma, its impact on teens and society, drive-in movie at Second Beach on Thursday, October 1, 2020. MPC requests all fees be waived for this permit.
Motion to withdraw said application at the request of the applicant.
second,
Motion is second. Any conversation? Hearing none. Vice President. Council.
Aye.
Council-
Yes.
Council Santos.
aye.
Council Toronto.
Aye.
Council Von Villas. And I vote in the affirmative as well.
Yeah, I vote aye too, Bob.
Yeah, you forgot him.
Hey,
Jumping all over you, Rick. Jumping all over you.
hey, get in sequence, Lombardi.
It's all right. It's only a few more meetings.
Okay, an
That's it.
ordinance. Okay, number 30, ordinances. An ordinance of the town of Middletown, this is a second reading, an ordinance and amendment to the town code title 15, land use, chapter 150, development impact fees, see attached ordinance.
Motion to adopt said ordinance on its second reading.
Second,
Okay, any conversation? Okay, hearing none. Poll of the council, Vice President.
Aye.
Council Flynn.
Yes.
Council Lombardi.
Aye.
aye.
Santos. Council Toronto.
Aye.
Council Marquez, and I vote in the affirmative. Item number 31, an ordinance
One way to go.
of the town of Middletown. This is the first reading, an ordinance and amendment to the town code, Title 3, Administration, Title 36, Schedule, Section F, Police Department, subsection 7, firearm purchase application fee, see attached ordinance.
Motion to receive said ordinance on its first reading.
Second,
We have a motion second to receive on its first reading. Conversation. Hearing none. Vice President.
Aye.
Council Flynn.
Yes.
Council Lombardi.
Aye.
Council-
aye.
Council Toronto. Council.
Aye.
And I vote in the affirmative as well. Okay, other communications.
That one.
Communication of Christopher Green, Whitehall Farm Condominium Association, President RE, entitlement to town services.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second,
As part of that motion to, do a separate motion. Vice President,
Aye.
Council Flynn,
Yes.
Council Lombardi,
Aye.
Council Santos, Council,
aye.
Council Von Villas,
Aye.
also vote in the affirmative. I'd like to make a motion that we refer this to our town solicitor for follow-up.
Second.
And motion is second to refer to our town solicitor. Vice President.
Just discussion, Bob. based on the communication that we received, this has been going on for a year. I guess this request was made almost a year ago, and I understand, we all understand the COVID timing issue of it, but I think, we need to make sure that we respond and at least let them know where it's at, what's going on with it. I think that's the right and fair thing to do.
Town solicitor.
And Mr. President, I have had conversations with the attorneys representing Whitehall over the past several months, and as recently as today, they have asked that they have some time to provide us with some additional information on this issue as part of our review. So as soon as that is provided, we will take a look at it and provide a timely response.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Councilor Flynn, you wanted to comment?
The timely response will cover my, my point. Thank you, Mr. President.
Solicitor was way ahead of you on that. Okay. All right. Any further conversation? Okay. Poll the council.
Aye.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Marty, Councilor Santos.
Aye.
Aye.
Morano, Councilor Marvellis, and I also vote in the affirmative. Okay, item number 33. And I know this gentleman has been patiently waiting. Communication Mark Ekstrom, 3 Maloney Lane, reference Airbnb houses.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second.
A motion second to receive. All in favor? Vice President.
Aye.
Councilor
Aye.
Flynn,
Aye.
Councilor Santos,
Aye.
Morano, Councilor Marvellis. I also vote in the affirmative. Okay. Mark, are you online with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, sir, go right ahead.
All right. What I'm seeing is the big quality of life impact to short-term rentals. That's part of the Airbnb. We still have people renting their house with the coronavirus. Some of them actually live in the house and rent out extra bedrooms. It brings strangers into the neighborhood. You don't know the backgrounds of the people that are coming into your neighborhood. So that's a safety thing in the neighborhood. Noise issues. You can't even sit in your yard. They also have a pool, so it opens up more issues of screaming and yelling. Police have been summoned in some cases. We're losing where houses, they're just a house used as a business and not as a home. It increases sewer, water, trash, and now you have to bring in the police to break up or, control issues going on. And it causes problems between some of the neighbors. There's more than one house doing it, and there's only 10 houses on Maloney Lane. And right now it's R10, high density rating. So the neighbors are kind of close together, and if you got 4 houses and, they're doing this Airbnb, it's more traffic and, you got all kinds of problems going on. Some of them are full-time summer rentals. They'll have an out-of-state owner, and they'll just keep it going week after week. Different people coming in, and you just start all over again. New people, more problems. And when you ask the neighbor, they will actually just tell you what you want to hear. Oh, I've only got 2 families, and it's only going to run for this month and into next week or whatever, and it goes all summer. So they don't have a care. People come down, they're on vacation, and they just raise havoc, and they don't care. So I've been looking at some of the ordinance issues, and what happens is you have R10 residential, high density, and there's also another issue of the rooming rental. So I think if we look at this, I would say, either go to a term of like maybe a month, 3 months, or a year rental. I mean, I would like to see it eliminated, but I'm sure that wouldn't happen. But you could also look at the residential areas, and if this one, like this one's R10 high density, maybe it shouldn't be allowed in this area. You know, if you're out in the middle of the woods or, you know, somewhere where there's quite a distance between neighbors, it would have less of an impact than in a high density neighborhood. The other thing is parking. People are actually modifying their homes to get more bedrooms and more parking area. There's a place on 5 Maloney Lane next to me that's run like a hotel. There's like, you know, 4 cars will come in. They're from out of state. We've had New Jersey, New York, so these were troublesome areas. And they required quarantine for 14 days. Well, most of them weren't even here, other than being here a week, to quarantine for 14 days. So I think we need to look, as a town, to look at, you know, improving back to our old neighborhood statuses and quality of life, and maybe putting some more restrictions on doing this Airbnb and room rentals. And there's another issue that just came up. I saw an ad on TV that's called Swimply, S-W-I-M-P-L-Y. And what you can do is actually rent out your pool to anybody that wants to come in and use your pool. You just hook it up online like Airbnb and rent out times or days for your pool. So that's like a future thing to maybe include in with an ordinance change. So I just think, you know, something has to be done, and maybe either the town or the police can send out a notice saying, you know, there's no parking on the street, as the sign suggests, and kind of maybe enforce it for a while. And because we've had turnover of neighbors that seem to have bought houses just to actually do Airbnb as a business out of them, and they don't even live here. So that's what I'm proposing to take a look at and hopefully help us out with, you know, bring back some of the quality of life. You don't even know your neighbors anymore, for the most part. But that's what I've seen, and it's happened in years past, and I've seen articles in the Newport Daily News with people, you'll see like 10 cars parked all over the yard, and they just rack them and stack them in beds and rent out the house, and the later it gets, the louder they get, the more partying, whatever. But I appreciate the time to get to discuss this, and we can, you know, discuss it further, or, you know, hopefully come up with a plan to at least, you know, reduce the problems that we're having in town. All right, thank you.
And thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Council Lombardi.
So, you know, we got a pretty strong email with pages of suggestions and issues from another resident in town today, and over the last week or so. And I got to tell you, my own observation as I sit back now and looking back, and as I said earlier, it's only a few more council meetings for me. But unlike my fellow councilors, you know, over the past 6 years, every time I go out to campaign and knock on doors, I find that we are losing our neighborhoods more and more every year. I saw it again this year. And I only campaigned in a small part of town. And I have to use that as a gauge, because I can't tell you the number of places that I went to where there are out-of-town plates. They don't live here. They don't vote here. They don't contribute to the community. And we're losing our neighborhoods. And I'm saying this to my colleagues. I'm saying this to the public. We are losing our neighborhoods. And I'm afraid that there's no going back. We're becoming a second home community. And when we talk about affordable housing, Dennis and everybody else, and we talk about being livable, and we talk about how we want to have it so that our young people can live here. Well, guess what? We're losing that, and we're losing it every single day. I say that with the most sincere, from the bottom of my heart. I don't have a dog in this hunt right now, and you all know that. And I mean what I'm saying. I'm concerned about our community. I'm saying this as passionately, as sincerely as I can. I'm not running for election. I'm telling you all that you all need to pay attention. This is not about my neighborhood or your neighborhood or where I live or what goes on my street. This is about what goes on in every single one of your neighborhoods. It's happening all over this town. It's not about the Easton's Point. It's not about Indian Avenue. It's not about Paradise Avenue. It's not about where I live in Chase Estates. It's everywhere in this town. And we're losing control of our town. So I'm telling you all, as a taxpayer and as a citizen, and not member of this council, that somebody better pay attention to this. And we better get a grip on it. And one of my suggestions is, for the next council, is you need to put a cap on these short-term rentals. You need to put a cap on the Airbnbs, and you need to stop it dead in its tracks, because that's the way they're doing it in other communities. They're capping the number of short-term rentals in their communities. And you'll slow it down, and you'll make this community a little bit more affordable for people to live in and for young families to live here. So I wanted to take this opportunity to say that. I've been thinking about it for a long time. And as I said, I ain't got a dog in this hunt anymore. So I'm telling you all, I'm looking at every single one of you dead in the eye. Pay attention to what's going on in your neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lombardi, for that passionate comment. Michael Cunningham. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for tonight. I'll be very brief because I know you guys have more to do. You received that that brief today via email, which has obviously a lot of data. I just wanted to emphasize that that is a small sampling of a small time period. Over the last probably 3 years, we've watched, I mean, we just watched it last week, 5 houses sold in 1 week. A lot of trout houses for $500,000 and $600,000, and no sooner do they sell than the dumpsters are there, and they're starting to flip them and build more short-term rentals. And so I don't think the council, I don't think the town, Mr. Brown and everybody else around them, I don't think anyone's really done anything wrong. I think this just all of a sudden got out of hand, and I think this year we saw it mainly because COVID changed the dynamic a little bit pretty quickly. We had a lot more people coming here than we normally have for longer than they normally do. So we've, over time, Mr. Brown noted last year, I believe, when we had the host compliance going up, at one point I remember he made a comment that, yeah, there's like, the same IP address on 200 reports. And that was us using host compliance and going around and policing our own neighborhood and making those reports. We probably have made, not only through host compliance, but for years to the police, to zoning, 300 or 400 legitimate reports of, in many cases, not even repeat offenders, and in some repeat offenders. And we thought about, if we had fined, not saying we should in all cases, but had we fined all of those, we'd have $500,000 in fines, which, so when you think about that, and we think about, I'm very sensitive to what my neighbor's talking about. I'm very sensitive to what Councilwoman Lombardi just said. I believe that if we just enforce the ordinances we have, and it's probably a year-long process, and really double down on that effort, much of this will self-regulate. People will realize they can't get away with it. Once these people start, I mean, look at those listings. When they stop listing, have 22 people stay in our house. Then that naturally why would I buy a house for $450,000, put another $200,000 into it? I do that because I can get a $1,500 a night rent. But if all of a sudden I realize I can only put a family in it legally, or I can only put 4 people, 4 adults and 4 children, I think people won't spend as much money. They won't want to buy as many houses, and we might get a semblance of neighborly behavior, even in the environment we have. So I think that the solution is a complicated one. There's questions about schooling, taxes, and we got to get a lot of money from taxes on these properties. But then, as we've discussed, then we, the residents, I mean, I've been on Alston Avenue. I've had some breaks, but I bought my place for my parents almost 50 years next year, I think. And I can't, all of us have seen this town change, but the change that we're facing now changes the character of the sustainability of the town, because when we've got half of our buildings don't have residents in them, what's that mean long term for sustainability for schools or the municipal activity of a town? It's just, I don't think it's sustainable. So we can start with enforcement of those regulations that we have and see what that does. And then, in short order, I think we'll know what works and doesn't work. But I do appreciate everyone's attention on this. I have listened for years. You have listened for years. We've all tried. And again, I think it really has been the last couple of years have just, hockey sticked up. And now we have to double down those efforts. So again, thank you for everything you do and continue to do.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Mike.
We're not going to act on this tonight, obviously. We received it tonight, 2 valid complaints from 2 residents in regards to what's happening to the impact, what's happening to their neighborhoods. I think this is something Council Lombardi touched on passionately, that down the road of the next council, that we have to seriously look into and see if we can control this somehow. Councilor Flynn, I'm going to ask you to be brief.
I'll be very brief.
We got 2 more items that we have to do before 10:30.
Okay, so, and again, I just want to, this is a mirror of the conversation about the beach ordinance and the dogs on the beach, because it's the exponential violation of the existing ordinances that are not being enforced. And this goes back to our conversation in April of 2019 with neighborhood stability and the dark neighborhoods. So to be quick, I will end there, but nothing has changed and we need to take action, or the next council does. I hope that's a priority for enforcement. Thank you.
I'm very confident it will be with any 7 people that sit in these seats, because I'll tell you something, it's something that needs to be redressed, seriously needs to be addressed and should have been a long time ago. Having said that, okay, item number 34. It's a memorandum from myself, the Vice President, Councilor Lombardi, and Councilor Santos in regards to the Butler basketball donation request. Vice President? You're muted.
Sorry. Motion to receive said memorandum and authorize $1,000 donation from the council president's discretionary fund.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, conversation. Councilor Lombardi, you want to expound on this? I know you were out there with them.
So as we all know, I mean, I don't have to expound too much on what the good things that Butler basketball has done for the youth of our community and Aquidneck Island. So Randy contacted me several weeks back, and he said, we're going to do a backpack giveaway in Middletown, Portsmouth, and Newport. They gave away hundreds of backpacks. They reached into their own funds. They did not run their summer basketball program this year, which is a real big source of their sustainability as a group. So they reached into their own pockets. They found some funding in their own coffers, and they bought the backpacks. They filled them with school supplies. And I will tell you, I was over at Oxbow with them, and they were gone in a flash. They were gone, the backpacks. The kids were coming out of everywhere. And it was such a great thing. And all Randy said to me was, I'd like to recoup for our program, the money that we put out up front for the backpacks. That's all they're asking for. They have a civic appropriation that they're going to ask for, that we're going to be looking at later on. This group is a grassroots, community-based organization that takes care of kids, many of them underserved kids, and they do wonderful stuff for our youth, and they don't ask a whole heck of a lot back in return. So if we can help them out with this $1,000 just to help them recoup the money they did with these backpacks, I think it would have put a smile on everybody's face to be good to seeing these kids, these youngsters getting the backpacks to go back to school.
Councilor Toronto?
Yes, I think it's great. But I was a little taken back. I've never seen 4 counselors sign on to a docket item like this.
Well, the reason why was we were all approached and we all felt it was a good idea and we just put it out there.
Well, I think it was a good idea too.
No, we'll put your name on it.
But I just find that you have your 4 votes.
Oh,
Well, that's not necessarily the truth.
wow, that's off base.
I see 4 people signed off on it already.
That's off base.
But that's just I'd never seen it before. I was just surprised that I didn't know we could do that. So if I put something out, I can call other counselors and have them all sign on. I just didn't see that.
Toronto, before you make any unfounded accusations, okay? Let's just.
Well, it is political time, so I just.
Well, it isn't a political time. I happen to personally have known Randy Butler since he was a little kid playing football for me. And he reached out to myself and he reached out to other counselors. And they went on the docket. He told us clearly who he reached out to. And in all fairness to the 4 counselors, it was put on that way. So it wasn't any political thing. It wasn't any, it was doing the right thing.
Okay, I just didn't know. I didn't realize I could have 4 people sign, 5, 6, or 7 people sign off on it.
Certainly can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any further conversation? Okay. Vice President, how do you vote?
Aye.
Council Flynn?
Yes.
Council Lombardi?
Aye.
Council Santos?
Aye.
Council Toronto?
Aye.
Council Von Villas? And I also vote in the affirmative. Well, I'm trying to look at the time here. I'm trying to see what else we can get done off this docket tonight. Councilor Flynn, item number 35, I don't think you're certainly not going to have enough time to elaborate on that, nor will you on 36. I'm just trying to think what we can get done.
Surplus vehicles?
Yes, we could do that.
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
I don't know how many people are left on. I'm still looking at some folks here that may be hanging on to see if they are heard for the civic appropriations.
Okay.
So
Well,
I'm not sure if that's why they're on or not.
We have a lot of civic appropriations, and unfortunately, we're not going to get to any more tonight.
No, I understand, but I want to make sure that that's known that.
Yeah.
So that they have to stay on.
I think we have to, I think we ought to take a look at item number 49, the executive order. Item number 49. I'd like to make a motion that we move to item number 49. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, Council Vice President? Council
Aye.
Council Lombardi? Council Santos?
Aye.
Council Von Villas? And I also vote in the affirmative. Okay, number 49, Executive Order 2020-14, extension of the state of emergency in Middletown through and including October 19, 2020.
Motion to extend the state of emergency in Middletown through and including October 19, 2020.
Second.
Okay, conversation.
Mr. President.
Council Flynn.
So, this is some of the item that was skipped, it would have applied to this. So very quickly, the state of emergency, it came up in August when Mr. Brown was not here by Counselor Rodrick, who asked a good question. Where does it say in writing that the funding or the reimbursement will come, or if you stay in a state of emergency? So I'd like that explanation from Mr. Brown now that he's here to start.
I guess you had asked this question earlier, and I don't know where you got that verbiage from. I had pointed out in my email response to you that those are words that you presented. What I have presented to the council is that the guidance that we are getting from FEMA, REMA, and the governor's office is that if future grant rounds come out and there's a criteria that a state of emergency is declared locally, we would not be eligible for those funds. That's not the case for the funds that have been issued so far. But in the, I guess with other grants, the experience of those offices is that that has been used as a discriminator on whether or not funding is made available or not. So I have nothing in writing. I have what I've represented to the council, which has been an ongoing discussion with those three offices.
Councilor Flynn,
I did have another question.
go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that, and one of the questions that came up in the conversation in August was, you know, how long is this state of emergency going to continue? And in part of your answer in the email that you're referencing, you state that the state of emergency for the state is going to continue while the state's in phase 3. And so we are also in phase 3. Does the local state of emergency have to continue while we're in phase 3?
Councilor Flynn, I think I can answer that question for you. We have to adhere
Okay.
to the execution of a state of emergency by the governor and the guidelines that go with it. We have to honor it and respect it.
So if the state's in phase 3, then we have to stay in a state of emergency.
We do.
Yeah. Okay, so the conversation from August, that should answer Councilor Santos's, Rodrick's, and Toronto's questions, because they opposed the extension.
Well,
I just wanted to make it clear.
the extension that we're doing is to extend Mr. Brown's authority under the state of emergency. Now, technically, we don't have to extend that, his authority, but we have to adhere to all the state of emergency guidelines as dictated by the governor of the state of Rhode Island. Now, whether he's in charge of the show or whether councilors are in charge of the show, and personally, I think he's done a real good job being in charge of the show. Some trying and tough times. Somebody has to be in charge and make sure that we adhere to the governor of the state of Rhode Island's directive. I hope I answered your question.
Well, there was a split vote, and I just don't know that we all had all the same information or understanding of the information, Mr. President. That's all.
What, may I ask what you didn't understand before?
Well, 4 of the councilors voted in favor of the extension and 3 voted against.
Well,
So there must have been, and I thought it was pretty clear that, you know, we needed to comply with the state of emergency also and qualify for reimbursement.
we can assume that liability ourselves as councilors. We can say, no, as councilors, we will make sure that this is adhered to as councilors. But we cannot deviate or in any way change the governor's directives by the state of emergency that she puts out for the whole entire state. Somebody has to govern it, police it, and make sure we adhere to it. Personally, myself, I don't think anybody better than our town administrator.
No argument here.
Councilor Toronto.
Well, if we weren't under executive order and we asked the town administrator to adhere to what the governor's saying, wouldn't we accomplish the same thing?
I guess we would, but it's,
You're on mute.
I guess my issue is, and I've brought this up on several times, for the first probably 5 or 6 months of the COVID, myself and the town administrator were on a phone call every day, Saturdays, Sundays, every single day for a half hour to an hour with other city and town managers. That conversation is still going on, that Mr. Brown sits in on with other town administrators or mayors or council presidents. I don't go on every day now, but I do go on periodically, several times a week. But there's a necessity to have a contact. There's a necessity to have a person who makes sure things get done. And so if there was a split, my vote was, was for maintaining the town administrator in that position.
I'm just getting clarity in saying that if we were not under executive order and we asked the town administrator to do what he's doing and what he's been doing, we would accomplish the same thing.
If we're not under executive order by where, the state or the town?
The town.
The town. I guess that's a possibility.
I would hope so. I mean, we would ask him to stay.
Mr. President?
Mr. Solicitor?
Just one more thing.
Yeah, just,
Wait. Councilor Toronto's not done.
Yep.
Go ahead, Councilor.
And then what I heard was that the state, if we don't stay in executive order, that future dollars that may come down the pipe would be, your town would be in more favor if you were in executive order, is what I just heard.
Who said that? The town administrator?
Sean just said that.
Okay. Well, he's more.
Is that correct?
Mr. Brown?
Yes, if there's every community in the state of Rhode Island is in a state of emergency. And
I'm just asking you.
No, I'm just saying, every town in the state of Rhode Island has declared a state of emergency. If the town of Middletown wants to not be in a state of emergency and they're starting to divvy out the money, then I think we're sending a different message. What REMA and what FEMA and the governor's office is saying is that, the fact that you have not declared a state of emergency may in fact impact your ability to receive future funding from the federal government. There's nothing in place right now that limits it. However, and there's people on the council here that, whether there's been storms or other kind of things that have occurred, that state of emergency declaration has made a difference in whether or not you've received funding or not. And that's why they're advising, that's one of the reasons that they're advising that we stay in this particular, that we're following suit. I think Peter wants to chime in. We talked about this.
We still have to adhere to the executive order. It's just who polices us and governs us here.
Well, there's orders that I've made on an emergency basis that, because we're in a state of emergency, are in effect. And I'll let Peter talk about it a little more eloquently than I can, but as an example, locally, I've authorized people to operate their restaurants outside. That's done under my emergency authority.
No.
If we take away that emergency order, then I believe, in talking to the solicitor, and I'll let him elaborate on it, we move into a situation where those people now have to go back to the zoning board, need to start expending money on attorneys and meetings in order to get the right to have that right. Because basically that emergency order gives me the ability to issue an order and work around the other administrative matters that exist within the town. But I'll let Peter.
Yeah, so just to respond and further answer Councilman Toronto's question of if the council's in control, we don't have a state of emergency, can we accomplish everything that we're otherwise accomplishing? And the answer to that actually is no. As Sean pointed out, there are certain things that the state of emergency allows us to do. And for example, in the spring when we had to do distance learning to move quicker to acquire and procure hardware and software for the schools, so that if they had gone through the normal process would have delayed distance learning for the school children for several weeks. The authority that allowed the restaurants to expand and do outdoor seating, which frankly would have otherwise violated provisions of the zoning code, was only able to be accomplished via the executive order, which grants the town administrator the ability to modify some of those zoning and licensing provisions. So if, for example, if the state of emergency goes away, then the authority for those businesses to expand and keep operating during a very difficult time also goes away. So those outdoor eating areas would go away, and they would have to, just manage trying to operate their businesses with the limited amount of space that they otherwise have indoors. So there are things that the state of emergency has allowed us to do and continues to allow us to do on a day-to-day basis in terms of supporting these local businesses, in addition to the potential to achieve future funding if having a state of emergency is a criteria for that funding.
Okay.
I'm going to let it go, but so if we declare a state of emergency, then we have to go under executive order?
Well, being on the state of emergency is what gives the chief executive of the town administrator, the ability to authorize those things that allow, for example, allow those local businesses to be able to continue to operate in a way that allow them to get through this difficult period of time.
Okay, I know it's been a pretty tough night, long night, and I apologize to all the people who are waiting with so many docket items. I think I'll show you real quickly. This is the docket item that I got on Thursday. This is how intense this is. So I apologize for all the stuff we got to cover in one night. It's a ton of stuff. So my apologies for the people who are on here who've been waiting. But this executive order, I'm just trying to get clarity on it, because we can declare a state of emergency and not be under executive order.
That's not exactly correct.
Okay, because I've just been reminded that we've already gone past our time. Is there any further pertinent conversation, or are we ready to vote on this? Because this will be the last item tonight. And again, I'm just going to remind my colleagues, don't send me anything, please, unless it's a real important item, and we can discuss it for the next council meeting, because we have to catch up. Vice President.
So, Peter, that's your opinion. I don't agree with it, but I don't have any problem with Sean. Sean's done a great job. The issue I have is that everything in the free world is open, except for town hall. That's the issue I have. And I don't agree with that decision-making of it. I had somebody call me and ask me, called the town hall for getting a divorce, needs their marriage certificate. They were told to write a letter. I'm like, what? Write a letter? Are you kidding me? We need to be more sympathetic to our residents with the services we're providing at town hall. Now, Sean's going to say town hall's not closed, but it's locked. It is closed. You're going to make an appointment, and the appointments just aren't conducive to everybody's. That's at town hall people's leisures. That's not at the convenience of our residents. And that's the only issue I have with this, is that town hall's not open, and it should be open. Home Depot's open. We're giving restaurants, which I think is the right decision. What Peter just spoke about and Sean just spoke about, that's great. I think those are the right decisions. The right decisions open the doors here. That's the other right decision, and that's the problem I have with it. It's not a power thing. Sean's made a great job. I'm sensitive to the money issue, but at the same time, you know, there's no guarantees in anything. It's like the governor holding the 1.2 billion or whatever it is, just to do the budget. You know, there's no guarantee. So, you know, call it what you want, make it look like what it wants, open the doors here and I'll be satisfied.
Okay, we have a motion, it's been seconded to extend the state of emergency through and including October 19, 2020. I'm going to poll the council. Vice President,
No,
Councilor Flynn,
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi,
Yes, yes.
Councilor Santos. Unmute Councilor Santos, you're muted.
Sorry. Yes,
Councilor Toronto,
The governor just extended automatic executive order extension without any consideration. No.
Councilor Von Villas,
Yes.
and I vote in the affirmative as well. Motion passes. Okay, Vice President, your favorite motion.
motion to adjourn.
second,
We have a motion second to adjourn. Vice President,
Aye.
Councilor Flynn,
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi,
One
Councilor
more down. Aye.
aye.
Councilor Toronto,
Aye.
Councilor Willis, and I also vote.
I'm counting them down.
Take care,
Thanks
colleague.
for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Good
Have a good
night.
night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. All right, how do you close this?